Aaron, you. All righty. Mr. Ayers, would you start us off in the invocation, please?
Yes, sir. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we'd just like to come here tonight just to thank you for the many blessings that you shower down on us each and every day. I would like to ask that you find a way to peace for Western Europe or Eastern Europe. Obviously, some tough situation going on there and a lot of suffering. Please put your hand on that and hopefully make for a quick resolution there. I also pray that you give us the wisdom and insight to make the wise choices for the town tonight. In these things I pray in your son's holy name. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. All right. Aaron's got a flag for us, I'm sure. There we go. All right. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
All righty. All right, I'll open it up to public comments. If anybody wants to speak, public comments, you speak on any subject for 3 minutes, just tell us your name and your address. So would anybody like to speak? And then Aaron Nichols will unmute you. All right, no one wishes to speak, so we'll just move on. So next up is our agenda of approval. And any additions or amendments or deletions?
I got a couple.
Was that David?
Yep.
Yep, David, what you got?
All right. I'm going to add 3 items to the agenda tonight. One for information purposes, an ordinance to amend the duties and responsibilities of the planning board. The next step would be to send this discussion to the planning board for discussion and comment, and then hold a public hearing, and then we'll vote on it later after it's through planning board.
All righty. Is that all of them?
No. Discussion and consideration of text amendment 32.16, service on town boards and commissions. I believe Aaron's got a copy of that for us. She'll have it. Is that correct, Aaron?
Yes, sir. Also, Mr. Shong will be pulling that up for you tonight, Max.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
And third one, discussion and consideration of possible removal of planning board members.
All right, we're going to put all of that under 7. We have the planning board application consideration. Is the applicant on board? I thought I saw his name. No.
There, I do not see his name. He was informed that it would be considered tonight,
Okay.
but I told him if he was unable to attend, I would let him know tomorrow.
All right. Gotcha. Thank you, Aaron. All right, we'll add those to just 7. Just talk about the planning board and those 3 items that David wants to add to the agenda. Anything else? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
All right. Motion by Mr. Hall, second by
I'll second.
Ms. Grooms. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right. First up is number 2, the rezoning 21.10.01, 3845 Matthews Indian Trail Road. All right, and I'll turn it over to Matthew.
Thank you. Let me see if I can share. I'll just share my whole screen.
There we go.
Okay. This is application for rezoning, RZ 211001. The rezoning is made by Montes Electric, and the rezoning is from MU2 to C74. Here's a quick project summary. This is the location of the rezoning request. It's on Matthews Indian Trail Road. It doesn't have an address because there's no building there, but it's just down the street from the hospital. The property is 2.87 acres, and it's currently a vacant property. Here's a quick aerial to show that it's vacant, and also to show next door the kind of existing businesses. There's a U-Haul and then some multi-tenant commercial areas. For your information, those are all grandfathered uses. Quick history, the property has been zoned MU2 since 2018 when the town adopted the new zoning ordinance.
Oh, hold up, Matthew. I was supposed to open the public hearing. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Now it's open officially.
Okay. The request is very simply just to rezone from MU2 to C74. Quick development ordinance, the tree save, there would be 1.5% of the lot area required to be preserved for tree save. If it were rezoned to C74, a type C buffer would be required on all sides where there's MU2. That's a 30-foot vegetated buffer. Article 19 would apply if the development is more than 10% built upon area, and they would need to provide water quality treatment per the SDO. And then there is open space required. The C74 district requires 10% total open space, which is about 1/4 of an acre. The land use plan, the current place type for this property and the surrounding properties is suburban office complex. Some uses are listed there. Consistency for this one was a little tricky. Some of the uses allowed in C74 are allowed in the suburban office complex, such as the office uses. But some of those more commercial uses are not consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. So therefore, staff finds that C74 is inconsistent with the current suburban office complex place type. The project is also in the small area plan for the Monroe bypass. This is the approximate location of the property, which shows industrial and multifamily in the area, which C74 is also inconsistent with. Quick planning board summary. This was heard at the planning board last month at the January 18th meeting. The planning board recommended approval because the use is consistent or it's compatible with the existing uses, so that U-Haul dealership and the multi-tenant. One thing to note on the planning board recommendation, even though staff found or staff considered this to be inconsistent with the comprehensive land use plan, the planning board felt that it was consistent. So in their statement of consistency and reasonableness, they did recommend approval as consistent. Just something to consider. And then finally, really quickly, there was a question from a council member on how the Silver Line interacted with this property. Upon review of the light rail plans route, it does go straight through the middle of this property. I just want to emphasize that this is conceptual. It's not guaranteed to come to Union County, but this was a question from council that we wanted to address beforehand. And that is the end of my presentation.
Well, Matthew, thank you for that. Just I'm trying to figure out why he wants to go from MU2 to C74.
Sure. So the specific use that he's looking for is the Montes Electric is a service contractor. And so they wanted to build a service contractor office. That is not an allowed use in the MU2 district, but it is allowed in C74. And also, let me back up.
When you say an office, like an office 9 to 5 office or a service center?
I will have to defer to the applicant to answer that specifically, but it's my understanding that it's office space for them to conduct their business.
Okay, well, we'll get to, all righty. Any questions for Matthew?
Hi, Matthew, this is Graham. I have one, and I asked Alex this earlier, but just from my understanding, if a conditional or zoning is denied, is the applicant allowed to reapply? And if so, when?
I believe the ordinance, I would have to look into this, but I believe the ordinance says that they must, they can't reapply for anything substantially similar. And I believe the time period is 4 months, but it may be longer than that.
Thank you.
All right, any comments or questions?
Yeah,
from-
question.
All right,
Yeah, I got a question there.
yeah, Brad.
Two things. Well, a couple things. Is the parcel, it looks vacant on the aerials, true or false?
That is correct.
Okay. And the parcel to the east of it, I believe, is owned by NCDOT. Do you know that?
Yes, that is correct. So if you can see my mouse here,
Mhm.
this parcel that this number 16 is on, this is all owned by NCDOT. And then obviously the parcel behind them is also owned by NCDOT.
And the hospital property line is where?
I believe it is this line right here.
Okay. So my question, Matthew, then is I heard a lot of consistent, inconsistent in your description of the action item, and I got lost. So help me understand, if you don't mind, who said it was consistent, who said it was inconsistent, and just I need to unpack that a little bit more because it didn't feel good as you were saying all that.
Sure. And it is a little tricky. I tried to keep it very simple, but I'm happy to elaborate. When staff reviewed this, we found that C74 has some allowed uses that are consistent with the suburban office complex, but some uses are inconsistent. So a lot of those kind of commercial uses they're not necessarily office uses, so they're inconsistent. Because there was a little bit of, it was half and half, staff decided to look at the other place types and say, well, if we were to find this inconsistent, is there a more consistent place type that it could potentially be, or that C74 is more suited to? And in this case, we found that there was. The suburban commercial center place type is more consistent with C74 than, or I guess I should say it the other way, C74 is more consistent with suburban commercial center than suburban office complex. So staff's recommendation, therefore, is that it be considered an inconsistent with the comprehensive land use plan. The planning board, when they heard it, they saw that the primary land uses are those office type of uses. And then the applicant, they are specifically asking to build an office type of building. So therefore, the planning board considered it to be consistent. But it's still staff's recommendation to find it inconsistent.
Could I be so bold as to ask what staff recommendation with regard to the approval or denial of the rezoning, or do you do that?
Staff finds it to be inconsistent with the comprehensive land use plan. We also feel that with the hospital nearby, the current land use plan, the current land use type, excuse me, lists medical office specifically as a primary land use. So if you were to approve this rezoning and did find it inconsistent, that would change this place type to that suburban commercial center, which will be less conducive with the hospital, expansions of similar businesses to the hospital nearby.
This would be really perfect across the street in the business park.
Yeah, I'm assuming the property owner doesn't own land in the business park. That's the problem, right? This is his parcel. Yeah, I don't disagree.
That was kind of a good question for follow-up. It looks like this was submitted by a company, but it's currently owned by, it looks like individuals. Are they associated with the company, or are they in support of this? I guess.
I will leave that to the applicant to answer. It's my understanding that the applicant has a contract with the current landowner that they'll sell the land when the rezoning is approved.
All right. Well, why don't we do that? Thanks, Max, and we'll come back to you. Why don't we continue the public hearing? Is the applicant here tonight?
Yes, the applicant is Mr. Dom Santilli.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, Mr. Sen, there we go. Hi, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about your plans there? Are you the owner or the applicant?
I'm the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
We are an electrical contractor. We're expanding, and so we need more room. We need a bigger office and some inside storage. That's the main purpose for us to buying that land. And since it's, we think we got room to do a few more commercial spaces for renting.
All right, council, is there any questions for the applicant?
Well, just one. I want to be clear what we're talking about. The owner of the property is listed this for sale. This applicant is requesting a rezoning as a condition of his purchase of the land. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's what I understand, right. But any questions for Matthew or the applicant? All right, well, if we're not hearing anything else, I'll close the public hearing.
Wait,
Oh.
I'm sorry, I had a hard time unmuting.
Oh.
Can we just see one more time? What is beside of it? It's the U-Haul, and then what's across the street? Would that be like where Barefoot Company is? Is that across the street?
What do you mean across the street?
Barefoot is down toward Indian Trail, one or two more parcels, not on the map, Heather.
Not on the map, okay.
Yeah,
I
so
believe so.
it's the U-Haul dealer and you see what's across the street and some other businesses.
Well, Mayor, my only comment about the use, I get the planning board's consistent with existing land uses. That's what I heard Matthew say. I also asked the question about the state owning that large property next door. To me, that's significant in this case, and it's a publicly owned parcel that could be redeveloped into something that's amenable to the town plan, which, as I understand it, is MU2, which is more conducive to light rail station hospital development. So I'm leaning against this rezoning for that reason. Just put it out there.
Well, exactly. Well, when you have the whole area is MU2, and then when you go in there and start picking lots and then change it to C74, then you have a little bit more of confusion going on. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but it's a little bit different. So, but does anybody else have any comments or questions for the applicant or Matthew? Because if not, I'll close the public hearing. And so I'll
No.
close, and then, all right, any more discussion amongst the council? All right, what's the pleasure of the council then?
I'll make a motion to deny this request.
All right, we got a motion from Mr. Scholl to deny the rezoning from MU2 to C74. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that, Mayor.
All right, second by Mr. Richardson. Aaron, could you do any further discussion? Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall.
Hey, Aaron, before we go down that, I'm still a little confused. And maybe they'll just, I didn't think, I was under the impression that only the owner of the land could request a rezoning of their own property. Have I misunderstood that in the past?
I agree, Stephen. That's a question I have as well.
Mayor?
Yes, Mac, can you explain that?
Yes. An applicant is frequently a developer or a potential purchaser. And as long as the owner of the property is in agreement with the application, it's fine. It fits the rules.
Okay, all right, I was just curious. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
All right, let's go down the roll call. Like, as you said, the motion is to deny the application.
District 1 Hall.
Yes, to deny.
District 2 Shoal.
Yes, to deny.
District 3 Drake.
Yes, to deny.
District 4 Grooms.
I'm super torn.
We'll play Jeopardy music if you don't make a decision, though.
Sorry,
Take your
I'm
time.
sorry. I'm sorry, but I guess now it's already going to be outnumbered, so I'll deny.
That's a yes vote. Yes. To
Yes.
deny. Okay.
District 5 Ayers.
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it to deny the application for rezone MU2 to C74. And Mr. Santinelli, I'm sure you can get with Matthew West and Max, and they can guide you on the process. So thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks for your time.
Mhm. And all right, next up is rezoning 21.12.01, 1149 Stallings Road. And I'll open the public hearing and turn it over to Matthew.
But before we move on, we do have to approve a statement of consistency and reasonableness for the previous item.
I thought when it's denied, you don't have to do that.
I believe you still do. Is that correct, Mac?
The requirement is that you have to do it when you're approving it, but if you deny it, it is a good idea to do it so that if it's ever challenged, we have a good record for the thought process of the board.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Matt. Can you bring that statement up? Who's ever got control?
Yes, so this is a statement that staff drafted. Of course, this was with the assumption that it was approved. So we'll change this to deny, and we'll change reasonable to unreasonable. But the key part of this statement is, like Max said, to give the reasonings that it was denied.
All righty. The reason is the proposed zoning is incompatible with the existing development in the area. Is that correct?
I think, Mayor, I think the statement would be it is compatible with the existing development, but is incompatible with the comprehensive plan.
Okay. And that's what we'll vote on then. So that statement of consistency and reasonableness, the proposed zoning is compatible with the existing development in the area, but it's not consistent with the land use plan. Does that sound right, Mac?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All righty, so that's the statement of consistency and reasonableness. Can I get a motion on that?
Yeah, so moved, Brad.
Yeah, motion by Mr. Richardson. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hall. Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall.
Aye.
District 2 Shoal.
Aye.
District 3 Drake.
Aye.
District 4 Grooms.
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
All righty. Now we'll move on to number 3. Rezoning 121.12.01, 1149 Stallings Road. So I'll open the public hearing and turn it over to Matthew.
Okay, are you all seeing yourselves on the left here, by the way, or are you only seeing the presentation?
Say it again.
Okay, good. I just shared my whole screen and okay, so this rezoning application is RZ 21-1201. It's brought by Andy K. The request is to rezone from SFR 3 to MU1. This is the location of the property. It's on Stallings Road. Again, this is the hospital over here at the corner of Stallings and Matthews Indian Trail Road. This time the applicant is the current owner. It's a little bit less than 1/4 of an acre, and there's currently an existing residential house on the property. Here's again the quick aerial. It's a residential house on the property. I didn't put a history in this slide or in this presentation, but it has been zoned SFR 3 since 2018. This is a simple rezoning request or a general rezoning request from SFR 3 to MU1. 1% of the lot area would be required for the tree save, which is about 200 square feet. There is type A buffers required adjacent to the other SFR 3 zones. This is per our ordinance that any change in use to a more intensive use, for example, changing from a residential to a commercial use would be to a higher use, so the buffers would apply. Stormwater doesn't apply. It only applies if more than 1 acre is disturbed, but the property is less than 1 acre. No open space is required either because the property is less than 0.6 acres. For the land use plan, this property is shown as suburban commercial center. There's some primary land uses. I'm sorry, the consistency statement is a little confusing, but basically staff finds it consistent. MU1 is most consistent with the current land use type. Therefore, we find it consistent. It is in the small area plan for Stallings downtown. It's just on the very tail end of it. The exact property is shown here on green. It's shown as multifamily, which is inconsistent with MU1. However, the kind of surrounding area shows office uses nearby, which are more consistent with MU1. Finally, the planning board, it was heard last month as well on January 18th. The planning board voted to recommend approval simply because it is compatible with the comprehensive land use plan. And that is the end of that presentation.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Any questions for Matthew? Comments?
Matthew,
Sorry.
no, Stephen, you go.
I was just going to ask, isn't there already a business on the opposite corner?
There is, so this MU2 zone property, I believe that the business here is kind of a private company that manages the owners associations for Brookfield and I think a few other.
Yeah, their
neighborhoods.
property management group, right? And so
Did you open a public hearing?
Yeah, I've already opened the public hearing, yeah.
Gotcha.
What is on the lot? So the lot to the south, to the left of it, so is it vacant? Yeah.
Yes, so these lots to the left currently are vacant. I believe that they're owned by the church.
Well, we've had some of the council in years past, we've had this discussion before. Do we want Stallings Road to become residences converted to offices, like many of them have already done along there? You know, the one next door to it, you know, Gary Side's business. Is that the look we want for Stallings Road? You know, I don't know if it'll ever change because there's so many homes there. is somebody going to come by and buy out all those homes and build a commercial development fronting Stallings Road? I don't know. I don't think so, not in our lifetime. So but I just want to let y'all know that discussion's been had before. All right, is the Andy K, Mr. Andy K, are you here tonight?
Yes, I am here.
All right, appreciate you being with us. Do you have any comments, or let us know what proposed use you're gonna, what are you thinking about doing?
Yeah, so my wife would like to turn that house into a small beauty shop. She mainly does skincare, eyelash extensions, waxing, and she's an esthetician. Right now we're currently we're renting in Matthews, and we're looking to just downsize and have a space of our own. Just something small, nothing major.
Gotcha. Now, how about parking? Is there going to be enough room for parking, Matthew? If he has, running a business out of his home, what is the parking requirements there?
Yeah, parking will be tight. I believe that we've discussed with the applicant. There is potential space in this rear yard to fit. I believe that the parking requirements, if I recall, the applicant's plans for the business, it should require about 7 parking spaces. So we have discussed putting the parking in the back behind the house.
And the parking entrance to the parking will be off of what is that, Brookfield Drive?
Yeah, that was what was discussed.
Yeah, we don't want, well, okay, gotcha. All right.
Parking would not be allowed in the front yard anyways, so access would have to be off of Brookfield.
Right.
Yes,
Steve,
Another question.
Steve.
Go ahead,
I'm
Steve.
sorry. Somebody said that the other business is the management for the Brookfield HOA. So is it, help me understand, but I thought that there was some, is this house considered to be Brookfield? And kind of on top of that question is there limitations on being able to rezone something that's part of a incorporated HOA, if that's true?
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, in our HOA, there's no restrictions, the one I live in. But of course, it's not, it's a little different situation. So that's a good question, Stephen, to make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah, why there are restrictions?
Yeah, of uses, but
You couldn't convert one of our houses to a commercial business like that.
no, but it is allowed. In some, so we just need to, I don't know if this is in Brookfield HOA or not, so.
Sir, there's no HOA for that house.
What's that, Andy?
There's no HOA for that house, sir. For that house I'm rezoning, there's no HOA.
And you've been renting it for a while, is that correct?
Oh, so I own that house. Yes, it is. I do have a tenant who live there.
Oh, so you own it?
I own, yes, I'm the owner of the house.
Right, okay, so you're not paying any HOA dues to Brookhaven?
Correct, there's no HOA.
Gotcha.
Mayor, this is Mac.
Yep.
HOAs and deed restrictions are private issues, and the town could rezone this despite those restrictions. But the restrictions are for the private property owners in that subdivision to enforce if they choose to, but it is not the town's problem.
Gotcha. Thanks, Mac.
That's what I thought. Thanks, Mac. Yeah. All right. Any questions for Mr. Andy K?
I had 2 things real quick. I'm sorry, not for the applicant, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Neighborhood meeting notices mailed. Any feedback, Matthew?
We did not receive any, no.
Okay, and the mayor, to answer your question, I think it is the right question, or one of the right questions. What do you see long term along Stallings Road between the hospital and downtown? And I don't know. I tend to think commercial uses will win the day in a generation because of CEM's headquarters project across the street. But I'm okay with this. I think it's a It's a commercial use, and I agree with the planning board in this case.
All right, any other comments or questions?
So, I'm not as familiar with this area. It looks like this is would be the main entrance to Brookfield. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's Brookfield Drive, yeah.
Okay, so that would have, and essentially residents coming in and out of the neighborhood would be competing against people coming in and out of the business?
That's correct.
Okay.
There's another entrance to the neighborhood too on Vicky Lane.
Right, no, see that, yeah.
And I think there's only a few streets in the neighborhood. It's not
You know, as
busy.
as Mr. Andy Kay said, you know, it's a small house and I don't think it's gonna have 7 parking spots, but I wouldn't imagine there'd be seven ladies in there at one time. So I don't think it's gonna generate that much traffic to affect the neighborhood. All right, thank you, Graham. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and then what's the pleasure of the council?
Mayor, I'll approve rezoning of the property from single family to MU1. Or 2, what was it?
Yeah, 2.
2, MU2,
It was to MU1.
Oh,
One.
MU1.
it's SFR 3 to MU1. Yeah. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Richardson. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Groom to approve the rezoning of 21.12.01. Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall,
Nay.
District 2 Shoal,
Approve, yes.
District 3 Drake,
Yes.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
All right, the ayes have it 5-1 with Mr. Graham, Mr. Hall dissenting. So thank you, Mr. Andy Kay.
Thank you so much.
Good luck on your business
Thank you, sir.
or your wife's business.
Yes.
All righty, can you bring up that statement of consistency and reasonableness, Matthew?
And this one should be correct.
Yeah, you're killing me on this font here. I'm not getting the glasses off here. All righty, there we go. Thank you, sir. So I'll read, so therefore the town council hereby votes that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent and reasonable with the comprehensive land use plan adopted on November 27, 2017, based on the goals and objectives set forth in the document of promoting quality development and consistency with all state mandated land use regulations established through North Carolina General Statute 160D. The town council approves the proposed amendment and stated that the town council finds and determines that the zoning amendment is consistent and reasonable with the key guiding principles, goals, and objectives of the comprehensive land use plan for the following reasons. The rezoning request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Scholl, second.
I'll second it.
Second by
TR.
Oh, Ms. Drake, thank you. All right. And Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall,
Nay.
District 2 Shoal,
Aye.
District 3 Drake,
Aye.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 5-1 with Mr. Hall dissenting. All right, thank you all, council. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Next up is conditional zoning 21.09.01, the Bailey Mills expansion. I'll open the public hearing and turn it over to Max.
Hey, good afternoon. Gonna share my screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
I got it.
Great. Okay, so this is CZ 21.09.01, Bailey Mills expansion. So this is a conditional zoning request, CZMU2. Impact LLC requests a conditional zoning for 23 townhomes adjacent to the Bailey Mill subdivision. They request a density limit from 6 units an acre to 13 units an acre. They request a front yard setback of 12 feet, which is consistent with the Bailey Mills subdivision. And they propose a total improved open space of approximately 5.6 of the site, which is less than the requirement. To reiterate, so these are the considerations that are deviate from the ordinance. So they're requesting a density limit from 6 to 13, open space decrease to 5.6 from 10%. They're requesting a reduction in buffers from type A 40 feet around the total site to only 20-foot buffer adjacent to part of Good News Church building. And the access road is not eligible for adoption currently as it's proposed, but the access road does meet town standards for alleyways. This is the site plan submitted. As on the southern portion of the site plan, I have 2 other zoomed in pictures right after this, just so you can see, but this is the overall site plan. It's 23 lots south. I'm gonna go to the next one. It's gonna show you a red boundary. This is the conditional zoning boundary. The north is the approved Bailey Mill subdivision. I also zoomed in on the access road to the right, which is an alleyway currently in the Bailey Mill subdivision. And I also zoomed in on the site development data on the left. So we can look at that in detail later if you guys want to go back. And then this is the overall CZ site. You can see very closely, this is the 23 townhomes. Current conditions, there are houses that right there off of Matthews Indian Trail Road. It's right next to Good News Church, and it's close to Marie Garris and Scott Clark Toyota. This is the street view of the lot. Currently, there's a house sitting there, and to the left, you can see the construction site of the Bailey Mill subdivision.
So it looks like, hey, go back to that, please, Max. Thank you. So it looks like on Good News Church, I know they had some concerns about which way the houses face. Is that correct?
Yes, and let me go back to the site plan. So as they're proposed, the houses are going to face the road proposed, and the rear of the homes are going to be facing Good News Church.
Yeah.
So they're going to have front-loaded garages along Good News Church. Good News Church will be south of this landscape buffer. At
That's
the bottom
of the screen.
Correct.
Right. Well, the other thing, I'm looking at Good News Church. It doesn't look like there's any windows on that side of their church. Could you go to that next slide? Yeah, I mean, it looks like that's.
I don't know about windows on the side of their church. I haven't walked the site, but according to this picture, it doesn't look like there's many.
It looks like they have all their utilities on that side. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you, Max.
Yeah, of course.
Please go ahead.
So this is just some site data. The address is 3042 and 3038 Matthews Indian Trail. It's zone mixed use. You can see it's surrounded by mixed use development, and across is Brookfield, which is SFR3, which is residential. And the site acreage is 1.79 acres for the rezoning site. So this is a mixed use to single family attached requirements in our ordinance. So I'm going to go from top to bottom. So density limits, they're required to do 6 units an acre. They're requesting 13. Lot size, there are no lot size regulations for single family attached homes, but the lot sizes proposed are appropriate based on the site plan. And the same for setbacks. There's no setback regulations for single family attached homes, but they are appropriate based on the site plan. And the reason there's no size regulations for lot size or setbacks is because they are required to be conditional zoning for townhomes. So they bring you those requirements. Buffers, street trees are required, and there is a requirement for a 40-foot buffer on all, required for all conditional zonings, but the requirement is just to reduce it to just the buffer along Good News Church.
And they're asking to reduce it to 20 feet.
Yes, just along Good News Church, but our ordinance requires a 40-foot buffer along the whole site.
Okay.
Open space, so they're required to do 10% open space. They want to request 5.6%. And then there's additional standards, so they will require a stormwater management according to Article 19. They do meet the 12-foot separation between buildings, and they do meet the tree safe requirements of the ordinance. This is the land use plan. So the land use plan shows the site as a walkable activity center, which primary land uses are sit-down restaurants, professional offices, townhomes, condominiums, movie theaters, retail. It is located in our small area plan for Monroe Expressway, and the future land use plan and the small area plan both show this as townhomes, so that it is consistent with our future land use plan and our small area plan. Some history on the site. Bailey Mills, the original subdivision was 92 single-family attached units. It was approved with a density of 12 units an acre. They're currently showing 13 units an acre on the conditional zoning. They were built by right in MU2 though, and there was a development agreement with the original Bailey Mills subdivision. For the expansion, they were NCDOT required Bailey Mills to move their main entrance from Matthews Indian Trail to Marie Garris. So now the expansion only has access through the Bailey Mills subdivision. And I'll let the applicant kind of go in more detail about why NCDOT required them to do so. And also the reason this is a conditional zoning is because the text amendment was approved that all townhomes become conditional zonings between the time of the original Bailey Mills subdivision and this conditional zoning. So there was a community meeting held December 17th at the Government Center. We did the notices by ordinance, and there was one resident in attendance, and it was the property owner. We had a subcommittee meeting on January 24th. We didn't have any additional recommendations for that meeting. Planning board was February 15th. We did the appropriate notices, and they were concerned about buffers, densities, setbacks, and I have the recommendations on a separate slide. And then tonight we have our council meeting. So these are staff suggested conditions. So the first one, as all permits required by federal, state, and local governments must be issued. That's kind of standard one that we'll put with all conditional zonings. We're also requesting that one homeowners association be for both Bailey Mills and the expansion. We're requesting the architecture be in harmony with the original Bailey Mills subdivision. It's because the expansion is connected through the Bailey Mills subdivision. And then we're also requesting the widening the alley access along the Hendrick Automotive side for Bailey Mills and the expansion to comply with town accepted standards, notwithstanding the Bailey Mills development agreement. So I can show you the location of the widening that we're requesting is right here on the right. It shows the access of 18 feet with a 23-foot wide of way, which is built to town alley standards. This is the main entrance to the expansion. So we're requesting that if this conditional zoning is approved, that they widen this entire road to meet town acceptance standards.
Could you put, yeah, there's your pointer. I didn't see it. Could you do that again, Max?
Yeah, so it's right here on the right side. And then I also have a zoomed in picture right here.
Okay, got it now. I see your pointer.
But I'm going to go back to the conditions real quick, but I can always show this real quick again. And then planning board had recommendations. They recommended approval with the following conditions. So they want a type C buffer behind lots 9 through 19 with the installation of a 6-foot high composite fence with plantings on the Bailey Mills side. They're requesting a front yard setback to be 12 feet to be consistent with Bailey Mills, and the front yard setbacks from 9 through 19 with the street facing garage be 21 feet. The street fronts lots for, the street front in front of lots 9 through 19 and meet town standards for public street, and the alley from Street A, Bailey Mills to the new street to meet the pavement width of town standards. So that main road in the back to meet town standards. They also supported all of staff's recommendations that were presented at the planning board meeting. This last recommendation from staff is a new recommendation. Here are all, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Are there any sidewalks required at all throughout there?
So the sidewalks are required, but this is a conditional zoning, so it's based on the site plan submitted. So they will be required to put sidewalks. I don't see them showing any sidewalks, but they are required to put sidewalks. I think that this is a, right here, this dotted line
Yes.
is a sidewalk for connectivity right here.
And I
Sorry, I'm
assume
going
the
really
first-
fast.
I assume Bailey Mills Part 1 has them too.
Yes. And then here, my screen keeps changing the position of everybody and it covers half my text. So sorry if I am slow. But anyways, this is the request. All the applicant's request is to the left. The staff requested conditions on the right, and the planning board recommendations are on the right bottom. So I just put it all in one slide just in case. And I also have another Word document screened up. So when we do the, if we have final conditions, then I can have them all up on one screen. And then there's a statement of consistency at the end. That's the presentation.
All right, can we go back to your that slide that had all the conditions on it, Max, please?
Of course, yes. Let's see.
That
This
one,
one.
that one
Yes.
right there. All right. Any questions for Max on this before I bring in the applicant?
Yes, Max. Do you know why this wasn't all done as one? So why is there a Bailey Mills essentially one, and then this parcel? They're coming to us now for this parcel.
Well, no, I don't know the exact history. I let the applicant answer that. I believe there might have been some history on wanting to do multifamily or commercial on this site. But I'll let the applicant answer that. I'm not sure of that history.
All right. Thank you, Graham. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, would this be about, I mean, would this be the time that we discuss the road or wait until later?
No, no.
Yeah, so can we bounce back to that shows the roads?
Yes, of course. Might have to have the applicant answer some of these questions though. Just
But that's okay. I mean, so right now there is a sidewalk in front of where it says Street A. Is there there's a sidewalk there, right?
Bailey Mills has sidewalks, correct?
Okay. And so when we were in subcommittee, I think on the right-hand side, there's no sidewalk connecting the extension or the expansion to the original site, right?
Correct. That was originally proposed to be an alley in the original Bailey Mills subdivision, and it's still meeting the requirements of an alley.
And the
Main
parking on the
thoroughfare is
road,
an alley?
I'm sorry?
The main thoroughfare is an alley?
The connections to the back 23 proposed homes are through an alleyway.
Oh my.
They're requesting it to be public. That's going to be a discussion between you and the applicant.
Yeah, and that's the road you're requiring them to widen, correct?
Correct. This road right here is a staff suggestion to widen this road. It also doesn't meet fire safety code. I talked to the fire marshal and they're requiring it 20 feet minimum. And this is 18 feet.
Gotcha.
yeah, okay. And that's even for the current approved site. It
So
doesn't meet.
this for alleys, I'm not sure why alleys don't meet the requirement, but I assume this fire truck wouldn't go to the back of the alley.
Yeah.
How would a
Yeah.
fire truck get to that back row of houses?
It doesn't meet fire code, and I'm not sure.
If I could answer that, those houses.
Wait a minute. Are you the applicant?
No, sorry, this is Matthew.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize your voice. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matthew.
Sure, sorry. Just to answer, Mr. Scholl, you were referring to those properties on the left, correct?
No, the bottom.
Oh, so that was what the applicant is asking.
Those down there, if that's an alley coming down from Scott Clark area, how's the fire truck gonna get down there? If it's an alley?
I'll let the applicant answer that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring the applicant in so we can ask some of these questions jointly with Matthew and Max. So is the applicant, let me
I'll
pull
stop
up
sharing.
all the faces so I can, no, you can go back to the thing. Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir. I'm here. This is Ty.
Hey, Ty, appreciate you being here. So you can go
Yes,
back and show, all right. So Ty's on board. So David, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, just to be clear from the applicant, is that alley, I can't really read it. Street A, looks like up in the upper right corner, there's Street A, and then it goes down to the bottom of the screen. Is that an alleyway? And the only way?
It's a two-way street. So the fire marshal, meaning if you look at Bailey Mills, which is above, okay, the alleyway cross sections are 20 feet right of ways, which do meet fire and safety. So there's a lot of history here that I think is important to touch on, and I'd like to do that first very quickly. I don't want to spend everyone's night here doing this, but
No, go ahead.
it's important to understand what happened here and why this happened and why these requests are being made. When this site became available much later after we purchased the Bailey Mill site and developed it, ordinances had changed since the Bailey Mill site was done and this site is being rezoned, conditionally rezoned. So some things have changed. Developer agreements are no longer needed, things like that. Open space requirements have changed as well. But when we originally looked at the site, we went to Lynn Hare and told Lynn, hey, Lynn, there's another piece next to the piece we're already doing. And in a spirit of giving back to Stallings, we just said, look, what do you guys want to see here? So we left it kind of an open checkbook to kind of get it back to our town. I'm from here, so I'm not an import. This is something that I'm trying to do for where I live. And the reality is Lynn said, look, it's MU2. You can do some small business. Maybe a coffee shop would be great for maybe the folks down at the new hospital. So that's the route we went. We did a site plan for that, and we took that site plan, came back to Lynn. Lynn said, look, we'd like to see some more sidewalks, which the grade sidewalk is the sidewalk that Lynn recommended for walkability, because the Bailey Mill site has plenty of open area, exceeds the open space requirements. And so we took this business type site plan and we went to NCDOT. Well, when we got to NCDOT, our dreams got crushed. They wouldn't allow a turn in. It didn't align with Vicky Lane. And it was kind of the same thing that happened when we did Bailey Mills that forced us to move our street entrance to Marie Garris. So we went back. We love Travis and the guys at NCDOT. It's not that. They just said, look, it's unsafe. We've got the Good News Church. Vicky Lane doesn't line up. We've got a light down there. It's just not good. It's not going to happen, guys. And we said, okay, well, we'll go back to Lynn. So we went back to Lynn and said, Lynn, look, it's just not going to happen. What should we do? And she said, Ty, honestly, the best thing to do is just make this an extension of Bailey Mills. Because she said, we just had a meeting with council and staff, and we're looking at redrawing the overlay anyway. We've got some good news about a light rail coming in. So why don't you guys just put together a site plan for townhomes to match what you did at Bailey Mills? So that's what we did. But we said, look, if it's going to match Bailey Mills, it needs to match Bailey Mills. We don't want it to look like a sore thumb, an afterthought, or have homeowners that would have a problem between two differently looking townhomes. So we want it to have the same exact architectural requirements as Bailey Mills. We want it to have the same setbacks as Bailey's Mills. We want the properties to be exactly the same size. And so that's the reason why you have these requests and these conditions for more dense is because when Bailey Mills was done, 12 units was normal. That was okay. Some of the buffer requirements and things were not there. So we went back to Lynn, and this is what we came up with. Now, the connectivity when it comes to Street A and these streets, we simply wanted to give the town of Stallings the opportunity to decide on its own without our influence of whether or not neighbors like Hendrick, or if the light rail's coming, if the town needed some public roads. Because being that NCDOT is not going to allow this type of connectivity, it's going to limit growth in the area. And so we just wanted to give you guys the opportunity to make that decision and leave it out of our hands. So that's the reason why the roads are how they are, is to simply give you guys the option to say, well, hey, if we do make it public roads, then that might give Hendrick some connectivity if they're restricted on some things from NCDOT and create positive growth here. So the cross sections that we have in Bailey Mills match what we have here. The alleyways are 20-foot right-of-ways. That's what the fire marshal wanted to see. And that's what carries you down in between 9 and 19 here, and 1 through 8. We're showing a right-of-way on this plan was 44 feet wide. Okay, well, that's to a public standard. If this was a private road, we would certainly shrink it. It's not needed to be that wide. But again, we wanted you guys to have the option to plan for the town. And if you deem that it was be good for you guys or good for the town to have some more public access, we're all for it. So we wanted to leave that in your ball court. So the setback requirements are really going to hinge on what y'all's decision is when it comes to public versus private roads. Because if it's a public road, which is what we're saying we think you guys may want, as long as it meets the asphalt standards to what the town can adopt, then great. Then it works. It works just fine. So we have to kind of wrestle with the roads to make sure we understand what you guys want to do without convoluting the rezoning. It doesn't matter to us if it's private or public. We just want to give you guys that option. Now, as far as the church, Pastor Peter there, we've talked, he asked to rotate those buildings around. They really wanted to see the backyards, which we thought was great. Peter has been great at the Good News Church, and we've met with him and talked to him a couple times. So we did that. It doesn't, those fronts on those units will be, have doors and entries and high-end features and brick and things like that, like Bailey Mills. When you look at the open space requirements, if you treat this as a whole, as one neighborhood, and that's really the goal here, is if this is really the only option that today offers for this property, then if we're going to bring it into Bailey Mills, it just needs to look like Bailey Mills. And the open space requirements, when you add ours with what we currently did, we're over the needed amount for open space and improved open space. But when it stands on its own, it seems odd. So I wanted to make sure I clarified that with everybody.
All right, thank you, Ty. Does that, David, does everybody understand the road to the right there is going to be 20 foot wide? Is that right? Matthew, Max?
18 feet wide with 20 feet wide away.
Yeah.
It's going to be 18 and then
23 foot wide right of way.
Right.
So Mayor, this is Brad. Am I to understand, may I speak, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't jump right in. Am I to understand that the choice, and Tyler, I was on the subcommittee, thank you for talking through that. It reminded me of several things. It feels like though what's put perhaps as a false choice is, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, is accept as public a road that doesn't meet public standards, or these will operate sufficiently as private roads. That seems to be the choice. I just heard Tyler. I don't know your last name, Tyler. I would address you by that, but
Yes,
Tyler's choice. I guess the third choice is to vote down the rezoning or defer the rezoning for more discussion. Here's what I think. I think it's important to have public roads here. Otherwise, one HOA or not, you're going to have a mess. My neighborhood is Stallings Road, Union County Road, Charlotte Road. It's a mess. And I get the one HOA sentiment, assuming that the whole homeowners would pay for this private road, but I suspect what we'll be getting in a decades or less would be a request from these neighborhoods to come take over these roads.
Mhm.
I think it needs to be public. I think the alleyway needs to be wider. I don't know how to do it. I'd also point council to next time you get them in, take a look at the aerial of the site, a broader view that extends out to the hospital. What you'll see is a roundabout being constructed that doesn't have a leg right now, because that would go through Mr. Smith's property, the wrecker service, you all know, and the water tower. But I'm looking at the map here on my other screen, and it feels like there's opportunity in the future to make a connection, as we all see on our plans for a future light rail station, if it ever happens, with more connectivity through the site. It would require some cooperation from Pastor Peter and Hendrick, of course, but even more so, it becomes important that these are public roads. And I just don't think it's smart to accept a public road that's not to our standards. So I'm at a decision point here where I don't really know what to do, but those are some comments I would offer. Yeah, that aerial helps Matthew, but it doesn't quite get, maybe it does. But anyway, that's for future discussion. I'll leave it at that. I haven't made up my mind on what to vote yet, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. I guess the only obvious question would be an economic question for the developer, because the obvious answer is to drop a townhome. That 4-unit becomes a 3-unit. I don't know what the numbers were, 44 and 9. I don't remember the numbers. That would allow plenty of right of way, but I'm sure you would tell me that affects your, number 1 and number 44.
Oh, yeah.
That affects the feasibility. So that's my comments right now.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else?
These are my concerns, what Brad just said, so I'm not going to repeat it again, but that's a lot of what I would be saying if he hadn't already said it.
Well, I agree with y'all both. Exactly that. I think that alleyway needs to be widened, and the roads definitely have to be up to our standards, because you're right, Brad, they'll come back and it'll cost more to repair them at that point than it would be now, with everything, with all the cost of materials going up. So any other comments, questions from council?
Yes, I have one for Mr. Matthews.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hall.
Is this the same ownership? So the plot in red and Bailey Mills, the phase 1, is that the same owner?
It's our partner.
But is it the same owner?
No, sir. I mean, meaning this Bailey Mills phase 1 is our partner in impact. That he's a business partner of ours. We do multiple deals together. So we do have a partnership together. It's just not on Bailey Mills. We're the operating and management company for Bailey Mills Development. We're the developer.
Okay.
The end user is NVR.
Well, and I guess that what I'm saying is, and maybe I'm misunderstanding. So the land, the corporation entity that owns the current site where the homes are being developed and this plot, is it the same entity?
It very well likely will be the same entity.
But it currently is not.
No, sir.
Okay. So I will say I've thought about this, and this is my concern, just to be frank and have it out there, is this deviation from saying that using some other entity's land to say that you are meeting the tree space. I have a problem with that because it's not the same ownership. And I think that that goes down a dangerous path where it could lead to future. It's not the same ownership. I'll just leave it at that. So that's my concern.
All right, thank you, Graham. Any other comments? All right, Max, Matthew, any closing comments?
No, I will go to the conditions.
Oh, yeah, let's.
Hey, Max.
Yeah, who's that? Is that Stephen?
The applicant. I meant to mention one more thing that I forgot, if you bear with me.
Yeah.
The 18 feet that you see on that connection, it is the town standard, meaning, and this is kind of what we went through this past week, that is the asphalt width minimum standard. Meaning when you see 18 feet there, I think it's important for everyone to know that the asphalt, what you step on, the asphalt, not the curb, but the asphalt itself is the minimum town standard. Okay, what's not the town standard is a cross section that would have sidewalks or planter beds. There's simply no room on the Hendrick property line, as you can see how it cuts at an angle, to make that happen. So I wanted to make sure that we understand that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yes, it does meet town standards for alleyways, but for adoption, it's for a town adopted street, it has different standards than this road.
Mayor, if I could say something as well, this is
Yeah,
Matthew.
Yes.
So I just wanted to clarify the whole private public street. We're kind of talking about two separate things. For a street to be considered public, it has to be built to town standards. And we have a lot of standards for a lot of different types of roads. So as Ty said, yes, this 18-foot road with the 23-foot right-of-way, that does meet the town standards for alleyways. Now, the question of will these roads be publicly or privately maintained? The town road acceptance policy says that roads have to be at least 40-foot right-of-way to be eligible for town acceptance to be publicly maintained. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And what's the sidewalk requirement?
I believe it is sidewalks on both sides of the street.
Instead of saying I believe, what's the truth? What do we need as the requirement?
If you will give me 5 minutes or 2 minutes, I'll look that up for you.
Thank you. I mean, I don't want to leave us hanging with without knowing it by fact. The other option is we could refer this back to this subcommittee to iron out some of these details.
Well, that's what I'm hearing right now. I hadn't heard from all the council, but
I have the answer on the sidewalks.
yeah, go ahead. Mike.
This is from our ordinance section 13.6-1 on street trees and sidewalks. Street trees and sidewalks are required on both sides of public streets except rural roads, lanes, alleys, and undeveloped edge of a neighborhood parkways. So under that definition, if this is the bottom street there that goes through the middle of the extension, it would be required to have sidewalks on both sides with street trees. But as this plan shows, that alleyway on the right side, it would not be required to have sidewalks or street trees.
Matthew, I apologize. I think I was a little blunt there and I didn't mean to be that blunt.
No, I understand and I should have had that information, but it was easy to find.
Well, this road, I don't care. It's not an alley. It's going to be a public road, so it needs to be wider. Let's see. I'll go ahead and. Is there any other comments from Ty? Yeah, anything? Because I'm gonna close the public hearing in a second.
No, sir. I think I hope that we didn't convolute this because we probably would have just shown everything private, like Bailey Mills, for the sake of making it easy on everybody. But we wanted to give the town that option to help connectivity. The only thing I would close is this. Our plat map for Bailey Mills Phase 1, if you want to call it that, is sitting on a shelf completed. So the issue is we're running out of time to add this extension. So we're very near of recording that plat, and we probably want to, make these changes necessary before we do that. So I just would hope the council would keep that in consideration to maybe make a decision tonight.
Max, Matthew, and Mac, if we turn this down, he has to wait a while to if we vote it
4
down.
months.
Yeah, 4 months.
4 months.
Versus going back to subcommittee and getting these details ironed out. So what's the pleasure of I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And so what's the pleasure of the council?
We refer it back down to the subcommittee. Can they have it back to council at the first meeting in March? Is that doable?
No, sir.
Who's on the subcommittee?
Mayor, this is Brad. I think Mr. Hall and Mr. Ayers joined me in that one.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I mean, Matthew and Matt, can we get it done in a couple of weeks, or is it a month and get it the second meeting in March?
And currently don't have, well, I'd have to look at the calendar. Give me 1 minute to look that up. I would talk to the applicant about that. It didn't seem like he was in agreement with, he said that would hurt the timeline.
Yeah, we wouldn't make it, guys. And it's unfortunate. And I don't mean that to put undue pressure. Max can confirm that our plat is signed and shelved.
Well, so the plat currently, it is not been paid for, and it can be approved if they pay for it. I've reviewed it, but like if they turned in payment tomorrow, I would approve it and have them send it to the county, but they have not yet approved it.
All right.
So 2 weeks from today is the next council meeting. So your recommendation is to have a subcommittee meeting between now and then, and to straighten out the details.
Well, that's that's a thought, but Tyler, Mr. Matthews is saying he can't meet that guideline and it doesn't fit their plan. So I'll just say, council, let's take a vote on this straight up and down.
If it's 2 weeks, that might be fine. Meaning I'm certainly, we want to give everybody the time that, and we'll give you all the time you need. 2 weeks would be okay. I think that's not, we're in curb and asphalt right now on Bailey Mills side already. So
it just depends on the council. So
yes, sir.
Max and Matthew and Stephen, Brad, and who was the third person on there? Graham.
Yeah. Well, Mayor, it doesn't sound like it's there's nothing that said detail about this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that there's no physical space to widen the road. The applicant doesn't feel he needs to widen the road because it meets the alley standard. So he's likely to be unwilling, and again, the nicest possible way, Ty, to widen the road. And then it also seems that he regrets now even mentioning the word public, because if he'd have been silent, he might have just approved this with private roads, though I don't think we would have. The planning board recommendation was to make these public roads and make them larger. The staff recommendation feels like it was the same. I'm okay to approve the rezoning as long as that is a condition, but it doesn't sound like that's a workable condition. So I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, no.
I'm happy to meet in a subcommittee in the next 2 weeks, but I don't think this is a detail.
Yeah, and if we have conditions, the applicant has to agree to all of them. And So, and Mr. Matthews.
I guess I'd put it back to the applicant as to what he'd like us to do.
I guess the road that would be in question would be the connector road there, Max, that's 23
Yes.
foot right away. Are you saying that that road needs to be widened even further?
Yes. So this street adjacent to the Hendrick Automotive
Yes.
is the street in question.
Okay. What's the width that it would need to be?
To be a town adopted road, it would need to have 40-foot width right away.
We would have to go to Hendrick to see if they would sell us that property to do that.
Okay.
And that's the
Separately-
honest truth, guys. Unfortunately, Bailey Mills has gotten so far ahead of us. And we cannot change the unit simply because it's already sold and already under construction. So our hands are tied there.
Well, all right, so I think we're beating a dead horse now. My recommendation is we just don't act on this application tonight, leave it open. And if the applicant can come back and figure out a way to talk with Hendricks and they give him some more land to widen that road, he knows what we want. And so, because I don't want to deny it, and then it's 4 or 5 months and then he might not even bring it back to us. And so I would say just that we don't act on it tonight, just table it.
That would give us the most flexibility to work with our developer here.
Yeah, that's right.
So Max, you want us to try to get back to you guys within 2 weeks here?
So we would put you on the agenda for the March 14th. So if as soon as you can do that before then would be greatly helpful, so I can put it in a presentation, or if you guys want to go ahead and present it that day, you can. I don't think my presentation will change much between then. The sooner the better.
We'll do that. Thank you, council. Appreciate your time tonight.
Well, hey, let's look at the rest of the conditions, make sure we didn't miss anything. Because the only other one I wanted to talk about was the council, is everybody okay with the type A buffer between the on lots 9 through 19? It would be against that's the lots against the church.
That's a 20-foot buffer with a fence.
Yes, I have one comment on the buffer. If you did the way the planning board wrote it, it's showing the buffer all along the whole side, but they're showing the landscape buffer only on this hash mark, which is adjacent to the building. And it would have, if you recommended planning board's recommendation, it would change the open space percentage, because this is where the open space is, this light gray. Just want to let you guys know. But if you did approve like the way it is and then added the fence, it would be okay.
It sounded like the developer has talked with the church, and it seems like the church is okay with what's being proposed. That's what it sounded like.
They got a letter, they could be here. I don't know.
Yeah, Max.
Okay.
Yeah, Max and Matthew, could y'all contact the church and corroborate everything, and then we'll see what the developer comes back with.
Mayor, this is
Mayor.
Mac.
Mac, yeah.
I would suggest that you close the public hearing tonight and continue this item to the meeting on the 14th. And if the developer is ready, you can take it up then. If the developer is not ready, you can continue it again till the next meeting.
All right, I agree. Thank you. So that's, we've closed the public hearing and we'll advertise it again for, I wish I would have not closed it, but I've done that. So we'll advertise it again for the first meeting in March.
Reopen it.
I don't know if can I do that, Mac?
I don't think you need to reopen the public hearing either now or in March. You've held a public hearing. Now it's just before the council for decision.
Okay, so we'll just put it on the agenda for the first meeting in March.
Yes, sir.
As a continuance.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Max.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Max,
guys. Have a great night.
All righty. All righty. Now we got a little deviation here. We're going to go into close. We're going to, Aaron, do I need to close this meeting or just say we're going into closed session? We don't
No,
need-
sir, we just need a motion to go into closed session and then we will do that and then come back to this meeting when council is finished in the close.
All right. Can I get a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 143-318.11A3?
Mayor, Alex here, could we add to that motion to invite our town engineer, Mr. Bo Connerly, into the closed session as well, please?
Sure. And we're inviting Bo Connerly. So if somebody can make that motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Show, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hall. All in favor, say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? All opposed? All righty. So close out of this one.
Mayor, I don't think we can hear you. Can anyone hear the mayor?
I hear you.
Okay, that's good.
I thought he was frozen.
No, he's moving around pretty good.
I see
Hey,
him now.
Wyatt,
Mayor Dunn, I don't think we can hear you. I don't think anyone can hear you, Mayor Dunn, if you can hear us.
leave and come right back, Wyatt.
This is about to turn into a meme, I'm telling you.
It's already on. Now unmute yourself, Wyatt. Now talk.
There we go. All right, Aaron, could you bring up some of Bo's documents and then we'll,
I think Mr. Connolly is going to share those from his screen so that he can control his presentation.
great, thank you. Taylor Ray, are you on?
I am.
All right, thank you.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
A little small, but yes.
Got it.
Let me see. Okay, so this information was provided. This is the memo that was submitted to council with your packet, providing a brief description of the issue behind 1004 Twin Pines Drive. This is where erosion has been occurring over the past couple of years. The town has reviewed the issue. The town has also had a geotechnical engineer go out on site and review some subsurface conditions to help identify the cause of the issue. These are photos of the bank adjacent to the property, so you can see the erosion that is occurring there. And based off of the information that has been collected, the analysis that has been conducted, we've developed some set of drawings to provide a means for the erosion control to be essentially fortified there. It's going to address the erosion that's occurring, pull back some of the material, install some vegetation and some manufactured materials there. And the intent of that is to address this issue and keep the erosion from progressing any further. Based off of the plans that were developed, an opinion of cost was pulled together. And for this specific phase of the project, this being the erosion control next to lot 1004, the estimated cost is approximately $95,000. So staff seeks council approval to move forward with this project with the budget of $95,000. The intent at this point, if given approval by council, is the town will solicit bids for this work. Upon the receipt of bids, the low bidder will be presented to council for approval. And then at that time, staff will ask council to allow the use of stormwater fund reserves to cover the project cost. Are there any questions?
So this is phase one?
This is phase one.
Right.
Yeah,
This
Mayor,
is-
this is Brad. I don't have a question. This is in District 6, and I'm very, very familiar with this. So I'll make a motion if you're ready for it to move forward with the Twin Pines erosion phase one remediation project for a $95,000 estimated budget.
Yeah, go ahead, Brad. Let's go ahead. Phase one.
Oh, I did. That was my motion. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I can say it again, but
No, that's all right. We got it. We got a motion to approve phase one of $95,000 approximately with to do for Twin Pine erosion remediation. So can I get a second?
I'll second.
That was either Ms. Drake or Ms. Grooms. Who was that?
That was Heather.
Oh,
Right.
all righty, Ms. Grooms, second by Ms. Grooms. All right. And you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall,
Aye.
District 2 Shoal. I believe that was an aye. Is that correct,
Yes,
Mr. Shoal?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. District 3 Drake,
Aye.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
All right, motion passes unanimously. All right, let's continue there, Bo, if you would, please.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to, can everyone still see my screen? I've got, didn't mean to do that. I've got an aerial map up. Is that visible?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, so the lot we were just talking about, that was 1004, which is located here. Directly downstream of the lot, there are 3 houses that have been experiencing flooding in their rear yards. And when I say flooding has been occurring, it's not significant storm events. It's just standard storm events. You get an inch of rainfall in the contributing watershed. They end up having a situation that looks like the photos that were included in the memo. This is a photo that was taken by one of the residents there of their backyard after a not too heavy downfall event. The issue here, there's 2 issues, and I'm going to go back to the aerial here to try to explain. So this creek system through here that receives flow from this entire subdivision. It crosses under the road here, and then this subdivision here, also this phase of it flows into the system right here. You can kind of see a swale that picks that up and carries it downstream. When this was developed, this subdivision was developed under the low density criteria of the of Article 19. And what that basically states is that if you're under a certain percentage and built upon area, then you don't need to provide storage for stormwater runoff to address any potential increase in flow. Now, when this subdivision came in, it based off of the proposed built upon area, it met those qualifications and was permitted as such. So when the permit was issued and development occurred, there's a couple of things that happened. One thing was the impervious area got added. So instead of woods and areas that look like this, now you've got streets and gutters and rooftops that take water and transport it much more quickly to the stream system. The other thing that occurred is there used to be a pond here, and I'm going to go back in time to about, and you can see it here before everything was developed. There was a pond here, and this was in place through the construction of a dam that went across the creek at this location. So when the development came in, part of their development plan was to breach the dam, return the stream to its natural flow characteristics, and then just connect into it from the area that's being developed. So as that progressed, the additional stormwater runoff that was created ended up inundating this creek system more frequently than it had in the past. Now these lots here, there is a shelf in here, meaning that their backyard is significantly lower in elevation than their front yard as the lot slopes down towards the creek. And everyone in this area recognizes that because they border a creek system, the creek is going to flood. And at times when there is a significant event, those floodwaters are going to come out of the creek bank and it's going to inundate a portion of their property. Their primary issue is the frequency that was happening. So they understand that it's something that is going to occur, but it occurring multiple times a year has been their issue. So in 2020, November and December 2020, we had W.K. Dixon conduct a study to analyze the provision of retention ponds upstream to see if those would help address the issue. The results of that study were delivered to the town in either late 2020 or early 2021, and they indicated that the retention areas would not provide a net benefit. So this year and I believe it was in, I think, the September council meeting, we presented the idea of having W.K. Dixon revisit their study and look at alternatives for modifying the channel itself, providing some additional storage, some additional flow capacity in the channel, to see if that would have an impact in keeping these floodwaters in the channel during those smaller storm events. That was approved, and W.K. Dixon moved forward with their work assignment. They came back and identified a couple of alternatives that proved to be beneficial. So staff met with the residents along with W.K. Dixon, the consultant, in the field or at their residence a couple of weeks ago. Went over the proposed improvements with them. They were very receptive of them, and knowing that obviously there's going to be some construction activity in their yard if this was to move forward. So that was the first step. We explained the next step is to then take this to council and make a request for council to move forward with an estimated overall project budget for phase 2 of $120,000. That budget would include the design of the improvements by W.K. Dixon. It would also include the permitting, and there's, I think, 3 permit coordination efforts that would need to be conducted through the course of that process. Then that number also includes an estimated cost of construction and construction oversight by W.K. Dixon. So the overall budget of $120,000, that should be, from this point moving forward, that should take us to project completion. So based off of everything, we're requesting that you move, that council move forward with the project with an estimated budget of $120,000. That council approve using stormwater fund reserves to cover the engineering and permitting costs, and approve an exemption to the Mini Brooks Act by resolution to continue using WK Dixon for the design and permit coordination tasks associated with this project. And that's primarily because of their history with this so far. They already have all the models, they have everything completed, they have all the history, and it would just make sense to obviously continue to move forward with them as a consultant. So that's the presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Bo, could you go back to the aerial showing the homes, please?
Sure.
The one I'm most concerned, I know it said deepening and widening the channel. The one I'm most concerned about is the house, not where your hand is, but the one to the left. Not that one. The next.
The Hunshakers.
Yeah, that creek stream, when it was flooding, it wasn't but about 5 to 8 feet from the corner of his house. So if they're going to widen, are they going to put some type of barrier between that would reinforce that wall, or what are the plans right there? Or is it just deepening and widening it?
Let me show you this and see if this helps. So this is kind of a view of, I think that's there. Let me see, that's 112. So this is either there or adjacent to it. The purpose of this is to kind of give you an idea of what they're proposing to do. So what's in pink here is the existing conditions channel bed. So actually what they're going to do is they're not widening it as in taking the top of bank and shifting it way over. I didn't mean to do that. Shifting it way over to here. What they're doing is they're basically, they're going to shift it some, I want to say 5 or so feet, maybe 10 feet. The details are still being worked out, and that'll be in the next phase of the project. But the additional capacity in the channel is going to come from this work right in here. So they're going to actually lower at the bottom of the channel, and they're going to create a couple of benches in here. And these benches provide an additional area for flow that allows an increase in capacity for the channel. So this sort of shows you the difference in the expected elevation from I believe this is a 1-year storm event. So you can see where it was and then where it would be. So to answer your question, part of the design is going to be going forward. They're going to get survey. They're going to analyze the existing features, and that's existing trees that they want to try to keep. There's other things that they obviously need to be able to work around. And when they design this, the banks will be stabilized with a combination of different approaches, such as in the intermediate term, there will be stabilization fabrics that will be placed at a biodegradable one. It'll give a chance for vegetation to get well established, and they'll pick vegetation in here that is specifically used for fortifying bank material and having a natural look, and being able to withstand floodwaters and also withstand areas where when the creek is dry. Does that answer your question in a roundabout sort of way?
Yes, sir. Do they have any estimate on how long this fix will last, or before silt or other erosion takes place? Is there any idea? Do they have the capability to do that?
Well, there's always a good chance that something, let me go back to the aerial here. The reality is this is a creek system. At one point in time, this was and just a natural system with no houses adjacent to it. The thing about creek systems is they're never static in terms of just staying in one place. They're always moving. A tree falls over and it pulls up some roots, and then water's going to get in there and it'll start eroding. You get a good storm event and water finds a little soft spot somewhere else. A tree falls over and blocks flow. You know, there's always things that are happening.
Okay.
What we're doing is it would be great to say that you wouldn't have to really do anything but come back out every now and then and just make sure that, just check on it. And they're going to have to do some minimal maintenance, just trying to keep you don't want the vegetation to get too overgrown in there, and they're aware of that. But at the end of the day, you could get a 50-year event and have a washout up here and deposit sedimentation in the creek system, and there's really nothing we can do about it except for once that happens, we go back in, just like any creek system that needs to flow in order to carry stormwater away from roads and houses in the community. The town, when we have a maintenance easement on it, we go in there and we remove a tree if it's fallen over. If there's sedimentation in there, we go and we have a contractor come and pull it back out.
Right.
What's downstream that might be kinking the flow up?
Well, the good thing is directly downstream of here, once you get into this system in here, the floodwaters essentially stay in the bank of the stream. And so you're eventually discharging into the West Fork of 12 Mile Creek. So it's really right in here where the biggest issue is occurring. I think once you get it to this point, it just acts like a normal creek system, and the creek system has been handling the flow quite well.
How big is that trough going to be? I mean, are we going to, in that image that you showed before, where it's going to be dredged out, it looks like, how deep is that?
Oh, let's see. This is probably 3 feet, 2 feet.
Okay. Okay.
Not very deep. Yeah, it looks worse than it actually is because of the scale.
Yeah,
But,
that's kind of what yeah. I mean,
yeah,
we weren't
this
going
is
to
only a
create
few feet.
something where kids were going to topple off the back of that and fall
Right.
10 feet.
No Grand Canyon through there. It should look relatively subtle. I mean, the idea for this is for it to look natural by the time they're done with it.
All right. Thank you, Bo. Any more questions?
Sure.
Bo? All righty. So phase 2 is $120,000 estimated budget. And so let's take care of that part first. Can I get a motion to approve spending $120,000 on phase 2?
So moved.
So moved.
With W.K. Dixon, we'll deal with that. So, all right. Who was that said I couldn't? Was that Stephen? And
Yes, sir.
Graham? Motion by Stephen Ayers, seconded by,
Second.
That was Graham.
by Graham Hall. All right. All in favor? Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall,
Aye.
District 2 Shoal,
Aye.
District 3 Drake,
Aye.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
All right, ayes have it. And Brad, I hope you're in town tomorrow and you can go by there and be the hero. Maybe-
Well, you know that Bo didn't invite me to a meeting he had out there the other day. He left me off the distribution. I'm just kidding. He didn't. He actually apologized. I missed it. But I should take just a moment to say Bo has done amazing customer service out there. So if we could give him a Stallings Medal of Honor, we would. But we don't have such things. But good job, Bo.
Thank you, Bo.
Thank you, Bo.
Oh, you can have one of these.
All right, thank you.
No, you can drink out of one of these. I can't spare one.
Oh, right.
All righty, Aaron, I'm gonna need a little help on the next one. Number 7, the planning board. Mr. Show made some.
Did we get all through? Did we get through all those things there, Mayor?
Yeah, we
I was
did.
going to say, before we do that, Alex, please correct me if I'm
Oh.
wrong, but I do think we need a motion to approve the resolution for the Mini
Yeah.
Brooks Act.
That's right. Could you bring that up, please? I'm sorry.
Yes. Bo, would you mind to stop sharing your screen?
Sure.
Weren't there 3 things we needed to do and we only did number 1?
All right, here we have a resolution to exempt the town of Stallings from the competitive proposal provision, North Carolina General Statute 143-64-31. I'm not going to read this, but what this does is we're not going to go out for bid. As Bo said, W.K. Dixon is thoroughly familiar with this project. And so this gives us the ability to not go out for bid. So does anybody have any questions on this? Can I get a motion to approve it, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Shoal, second
Second.
by Mr. Hall. Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1, Hall.
Aye.
District 2, Shoal.
Aye.
District 3, Drake.
Aye.
District 4, Grooms.
Aye.
District 5, Ayers.
Aye.
District 6, Richardson.
Aye.
All right, ayes have it, motion passes. All righty, now number 7.
Wait, do we need to do a motion to approve using stormwater fund reserves to cover the engineering permitting, or was that already done?
Yeah, that was part of the 2 motions of A and B. Phase
Okay.
1 and phase 1 and phase 2, 90,000 and 120,000. All righty. Aaron, could you read off, were you able to, and David help us? So we got 3 things. What is the first one?
Mayor, I believe there's actually 4 things, but I didn't, because there was the planning board application, but I didn't know if you wanted to consider that until after the items that Mr. Shoal added.
Yeah, we're going to table that, and then I'll
Okay.
table the reason why after we get through here. All right, so what are the 3 things?
You
I
got it,
believe
Aaron?
the first thing was to discuss an ordinance to amend the duties and responsibilities of the planning board.
All right, duties and responsibilities, okay.
Wait, is this the one? I have 3. Or is it this one? I think it's this
That's
one.
not it.
Is that the first one, Mac? Yeah, that's the first one.
No, sir. That is not, that's the second one.
That's the second one.
Okay, sorry. Is this the first one? I just don't know which one's the first one. I can't remember. Sorry.
Go to the,
Max or Aaron, whichever is sharing screen, what we need is the track change version of the ordinance to update the duties and responsibilities of the planning board.
Max, Mr. Shong is sharing that on the screen.
Okay, you need the track changed one. Okay.
Yes.
Those 3 documents, the one I pulled up, let me go through my email. I apologize for the delay, everybody.
While he's looking for that, let me tell you what you're going to see. This will bring the provision of the town code as opposed to the development ordinance in line with the changes to the development statutes in 160D. In 2019 and 20, the legislature completely rewrote most of the planning and regulation of development statutes, pulled them out of several different chapters and consolidated them into chapter 160D. And in doing that, they changed the wording of the duties and responsibilities of the planning board. When we did the 160D project for you, Lynn and I pulled all those changes into the Stallings Development Ordinance. We did not pull them into the town code. So section 32.10 of the town code talks about the duties and responsibilities of the planning board. And when we get the track change version up, you'll see that we have removed the language that tracked the old 160A language and put in the language that matches the new 160D language, and also put in one additional provision where we took out the phrase that the planning board shall do these things and changed that to the planning board may, at the request of the town council, do these things. Max, are we close?
These are the only 3 attachments that I have in my email. I pulled them up on my screen a second ago.
The one that you're after should be the one that says either PB ordinance or planning board ordinance. It's the short title.
Okay, I'll pull that one up. So this is the one that says Stallings Planning Board Ordinance.
But that's not your, for some reason, yours.
These are the 3. Yeah, these are the 3 attachments that I have had sent in my email. And those are the only ones that were provided to me.
Hey,
Aaron,
Max, this is Brad.
Yeah.
Mac, I
feels
can
like-
pull up the red line version, sir.
Thank you.
He just,
Thank you.
he just doesn't have the red line version fully amplified. That's what it is, but Eric
Yeah.
can get it.
If I were the one sharing the screen, I would be making the same mistake. All right, so we changed the title from boards required by the statute to boards defined by the statute, because they are not required, they are optional. And then you'll see in 4, we've changed shall to may and added the words at the request of the town council. The 160D revision took out the language that's shown there as a strike through, A, B, and C, and put in the new A and B. C didn't change except to add the 2 words development regulations. D was rewritten, and we left one out because Stallings doesn't do it. And that's that some communities send quasi-judicial matters to the planning board for a hearing before they go to the Board of Adjustment for a quasi-judicial hearing. That makes no sense in Stallings, because your Board of Adjustment is the most senior members of the planning board. So they will hear it once and only once, sitting as a Board of Adjustment. So that's what the changes here are. The only thing that doesn't exactly track the statutes is the addition of the words at the request of council.
All right, Aaron, can you go back up to the top? There we go. Thank you. And what is this called, Max? This is an ordinance. Oh, there it is. That's what I was looking for. All right, any questions for Mac on this? All right, can I get a motion to approve the ordinance to update the duties and responsibilities of the Stallings Planning Board to match the provisions of Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes as submitted by this document by our attorney, Mac?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I think what you're asking for is a motion to send this to the planning board for review and comment, and it will be set up for a public hearing, probably at your second meeting in March.
All right, so what I said the first time, Aaron, and then to approve sending it to the planning board.
So moved.
All right, motion by Mr. Scholl. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hall. Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall,
Aye.
District 2 Shoal,
Aye.
District 3 Drake,
Aye.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
All right, motion passes unanimously. All right, next up is, what document is that, Mac?
The next one is the memorandum to mayor and town council from me, proposed amendment to town code of ordinances. That's it.
Okay, good.
This was sent to each of you this afternoon. What this basically does is add a new provision to the town code of ordinances, not to the development ordinance, but to the town code of ordinances, that states very specifically that citizens who are appointed to town boards, commissions, and committees that aren't regulated by state law for the term, then those commissions, and basically it's all of your boards and commissions except for the Board of Adjustment, which has a 3-year term stated in the statute. So it's all of your other boards and commissions. Those members would serve at the pleasure of the council, but it doesn't change the fact that they still have, for example, on the planning board, a 3-year term as stated in the regulations today. It doesn't change any of that. It just adds to that all of those appointees serve at the pleasure of the council.
And does this need to go to planning board for approval?
No, sir, it does not, because it is not in the development ordinance. It's in the town code of ordinance, and it applies to all of your boards and commissions that meet that definition, where the term of office is not established by state law.
All right, thank you, Mac. Any questions for Mac from the council? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to, can you go back up to the top there, Aaron? The motion to approve the proposed amendment to our town code of ordinances?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Shaw, second.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Grooms. And Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall,
Aye.
District 2 Shoal,
Aye.
District 3 Drake,
Aye.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
All right, the motion passes to amend the town code of ordinances. All right. And then the third item was Aaron or David, can you restate it?
Yes, sir. The third item was discussion and consideration of removal of a planning board member.
All righty. And David, I'll turn that over to you.
I can go into a long discussion, or I can just make a motion to remove Robert Reagan from the planning board.
Well, I think it, needs some discussion among the council. So, I mean, that's up to you. You can make the motion, but we're still going to have some discussion.
I'll make the motion, and then we'll discuss it.
All right. And the motion is?
To remove Robert Reagan from the planning board.
All right. All right. Any discussion? Comment?
Motion's a second.
Yeah, I'll get a second in a second. So comments, discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a comment. That this was one I hadn't expected to see tonight, but I'm happy to have the opportunity. I won't be supporting this motion tonight, but I'll go and share my reasons why I voted for Mr. Reagan on 2 occasions to join the planning board. I understand there are some concerns, and I share them as well. However, after a meeting, I think that Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor had with Mr. Reagan last week, I'm interested in more conversation with Mr. Reagan and discussing some issues with the planning board, both on leadership of the team and assembling a team, frankly. So that's why I would not be in favor of a motion to remove this evening at all.
All right. Thank you, Brad. Anybody else?
I did want to share just a little bit with the team. Just I did attend the WUMA meeting with several other towns within the area. And one of the other towns did share with us that, and this was an unprovoked, that we were just kind of swapping stories before the meeting started. And a couple of years back, a town, I'll leave out the towns and the names of people to save the innocent, but they did lose a very lucrative development because of issues within the town planning board. And so, so I think that we need to, I know we've talked about, we've lost a lot of members on the town and planning board, but at the same token, we need to also make sure that we understand that we're getting ready to move into a period of time where we think we might see a lot of growth around the hospital. We may see a lot of growth, from the DFI. We just want to also think about the planning board is kind of our first foot in the door, so to speak. And so that we're putting our best foot forward when we're going into negotiations with, potentially make it or break it projects. So I do think that it's important that we keep pressure on making sure that board is functioning as a team. And the word functioning means working together with the town and working together with all the rest of the members. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Anybody else?
I'll say something.
Yes, ma'am.
I absolutely share all of the same concerns as everybody else. And I do know just from certain planning board members messaging me, letting me know what's going on. And I know it's been frustrating. I just would like one more chance to try and get some change. But I don't want the staff and other people to think that I am not supporting them, because I do. I just, I'm somebody who gives second chances.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Anybody else? Yeah, I'll give my 2 cents. As you know, myself and David and Mac met with Mr. Reagan, and we expressed these same concerns to him, and I thought we had a constructive conversation, and I thought he understood what we were wanting as far as Stephen says, the functionality of the committee is the most important thing that we're after, for it to provide the guidance that it's challenged to do through statute. Obviously, Mr. Reagan then sent out an email to the council, and I took it as just for a grain of salt. But I'm like you, Heather. We asked him to make some changes, and he hasn't had a chance to make the changes at his next planning board meeting. And my recommendation is to let him continue to serve, and then we'll base it on his future behavior. So, anybody else? All righty. Well, we have a motion on the table from Mr. Scholl to remove Mr. Reagan from the planning board. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Mr. Hall seconded. Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall,
Aye.
District 2 Shoal,
Aye.
District 3 Drake,
No.
District 4 Grooms,
No.
District 5 Ayers,
I'm going to be a no tonight, but I'm 49.9%.
I agree with Stephen. Let's give him a second chance.
All right, and
and District 6 Richardson.
No.
all right, the noes have it, 4-2. And so Mr. Reagan remains on the planning board. So, all right, thank you all for that. And then as far as the application, Aaron, can you get in touch with him? Tell him, I'd like to reopen our application process for the planning board, and we're not ready to vote on, just one application. Unless we're statutorily bound to have to do it, but I don't think we are, so.
I'll let them know, sir.
All right, thank you. Marcia, thank you for hanging around.
No problem.
All righty.
I,
Does anybody need a bio break? Just take it. Don't have to ask permission.
I'm going to share my screen. Try and be brief. I know it's late and this stuff can be a little tedious, but I'd imagine you can still see the presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We've had operations through, move this because it's covering everything. We've had operations, this is a report as of the end of June. And as you can see, our revenues are doing quite well. That's the green line there above the red is budget, blue is last year. And while it is fairly above there, I'd like to, we have 8.25 million in revenue versus 5.25 of last year. But I'd like to point out that this next picture depicts what's happening here if we remove those ARP funds. And that's the reason we had that jump in August. So if we take that out of there, you can see that we're still trading above revenue. And really there's two factors in that. And one is the ad valorem taxes, which we knew would increase collections this year, as well as the sales and use tax. We have, we'll get into this on the next slide, but sales and use is really coming, I mean, it's well above budget this year. So I'm going to go on to the next slide because that shows you line by line. And unfortunately, this is kind of small, so I am putting my glasses on too. And you look at the first line, ad valorem taxes, we've collected 3.7 million. And if we look at what we've actually collected in February, and I want to give you that number, it's 4.2 million. So we're almost at full collection right as of today. Right now we sit as of this report, it was 86% practically, but we're more in about 95% when you put the collections for next month in. So I don't see any problem reaching our budget there, 4.33 million by the end of the year. Now, the next line down, sales and use, you can see that we're about just short of $100,000 greater than last fiscal year. And last fiscal year, as you noted, or if you remember, there were more collections than the prior year. This seems to be a number that's growing rapidly as the years go out here, the past 2 years. Our budget is 1.44 million, and our projection for this, we've been collecting very close to $150,000 a month in sales and use tax, and our projection is going to be about 1.74 million for that. So we're going to pick up probably about $300,000 just on the sales and use tax line above budget for the year. The other lines, you can see motor vehicles higher slightly. PAL bill, we have collected our second distribution. I expect PAL bill, which is the final for the year. There are 2 distributions of PAL bill money. And you can see that we collected quite a bit over what we did in the prior year. So that's a plus up as well. If you're looking at franchise and utility taxes, we expect that to be over our budget, which was 778,000. There are 4 distributions of franchise and utility tax. That's this line item here. And that's, if we double this number, we're very close to $400,000. We'll be about 6,000 short of that, which will be a little bit higher than our budget. PD related items, we have picked up funds for grants and other items, forfeiture funds. So we don't budget those. What we budget in PD are the fees that they may charge in the department there. But pretty much the grants and things like that, we don't actually budget them unless they come in and there's a related expense to it that would have put their expense side over budget. Then we will go back and do a budget amendment showing that revenue. But right now, I think we're okay in that on those line items. Planning and zoning, you can see we're tracking that's about half the revenue. I think we're going to come in slightly lower. I think what the difference is, we had the development agreement fees in the past. We did reduce our revenue downward, but I expect the rest of the year, with it being the summer months, the construction will pick up and we'll have some plan reviews and things like that in there. So I expect these fees we could be very close to this budget number for the year. If you're looking at park, our rentals are tracking higher than budget, and that's a good thing. We had a pickup there due to little COVID restrictions. I think people were out a lot more, and I see that picking up even more as the next months come in, the nicer weather, and people are renting the spaces. I'm sorry. Grants, you can see that's that 2,572,000. That's the ARP funds, and then the CARES Relief Act funds that we received in 2021. That's about $223,851. So in total, if we take away, this 2,500,000 from the 8.2 million, and we take I would say these one-time CARES like the grant funds right here, those bigger ticket items on these two, revenue right now would be at 5.67 million versus 5 million about 5 million for fiscal year 2021. So we are still about $600,000 higher. And you can see it on these line items here. I mean, we just went through all of them. Almost every line item is higher in revenue than the prior year. Any questions on revenue?
Yeah, one question. Is the revenue higher when figured into the when you calculate the higher than normal inflation?
Probably not. We had the tax reduction. So I would say, and that's possibly, I would say that's probably a major reason why sales and use tax has gone up as much as it has, just because the price is higher of the item. So it would be more tax collected on the item they're selling. And that's more tax funds to to the town. The ad valorem taxes, but if you look at it, I mean, sales and use tax is a large portion of our budget, but it's not everything. And like I said, ad valorem tax, we pushed everything downward. So while the homes, the home values went up, our tax rate went down. So I don't see inflation driving our revenue line much. It's definitely not a 1-for-1 anyway. Like I definitely would say that it's not 1-for-1. A dollar, like a percentage point in our revenue line does not equate to a percentage point in inflation, because we're experiencing, I mean, just in December it was a 7% average for the year for inflation for fiscal 2021. So that's a huge number. We're not near that. We won't see that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. On the expenditure line, you can see overall we have 6.8 million that we've spent, and we are below budget by 1.3 million or 16%. It's mainly, if you're looking at reasons why, and it's tracking while it's tracking above last fiscal year, that's mainly due to the Monroe Road purchase. I mean, if we took that away, the difference between the actuals of the 2 years, they're 3.3 million higher. So yes, we are spending higher. We're tracking a little higher on the expenses this year than last year, but it's still not, when we look at what we paid so far this year, there are some expenditures that happened in the beginning of the year, and we'll see those within each of the departments. But we're tracking well below budget for what we have. This explains it a little bit better. When you're looking at expenses, I always take this and look at it as months. We've gone through 7 months of operation, which if you take 7 divided by 12, that's 58%. That's how I kind of look at each of the line items when I'm going through them and just analyzing them, these percentages over here on the right. The ones that I'd like to point out are the ones over that. So as I talk about each of them, I'll kind of go to the right here and look at those and point those out. General government, the budget's like 4.3 million. We spent 3,573,000 practically. Last year, we only spent 764,000. And that's really because of this line item here, that capital expenditure. And that's related to the purchase of Old Memory Road. So what I did in the prefix up here in the summary, the total budget, yes, is 82.7% of the total that we've used year to date. But if we take that capital item out, because it's a one-time thing, there's no other capital items in that budget. With the department has only really spent 53.1% of the total. So I think that's the thing that that really stands out in this analysis of general government. In public safety, they've spent 387,902. They're pretty much, I don't know that it could get any closer, to be honest with you, to last year's spending. So it's very, very close. It's only $2,000 difference, or yes, $2,000. So it's tracking almost exactly to what it was last year. We did buy our vehicles later in the year last year, and it's happening this year as well. There's 50.8% of their total budget. And the only line item that's over that 58% really is the insurance line. And so it has other miscellaneous type things in there. But if you're looking, about half of that 52,000 there that has been spent is 27.2, and those are insurance expenses which are paid at the beginning of the year for police liability and some other insurances that we have to have specialized to the department. So next month, I know that I just wrote out some checks to some car dealerships. So you're going to see our car dealership to purchase the vehicles for this year. So this number down here, the capital outlay, will be higher for February. I'm going to move on. Transportation, you can see that they've spent about close to $500,000, $497,000 versus 167,000 or 68,000 last year. And that's mainly on the POW bill line. We did spend road resurfacing repairs this year but it was actually road repairs that were scheduled for fiscal year 2021 that were completed in this year. I had said that, and I did say this before in some other reports, that if we end up doing the roads that are scheduled for this fiscal year, which I know that we were waiting for the new software that Bo and Justin had put into place to do the road rankings and things. They were using that to see which repairs need to be made, and then we would put it out to bid. It's getting, we have 5 months left here in the fiscal year. I'm thinking that we may not have to change the budget, because even if we did some other smaller repairs, we have plenty of room in between the paving line here for $355,000 in budget and the $513,700. Even if we made progress payments on road repairs that are started, I don't think they're going to go over those, but I could be wrong. And if we do, we have the funds that we put into fund balance last year that, because we didn't spend them, it went there. So, those are funds that we can actually allocate or appropriate to any of these lines. Oh, whoops. Public Works, they've spent about 130,000 compared to 158,000 last year. They did some purchases of capital equipment last year. That's what's really throwing them over, compared to this year. And the only line item for them that goes over that 58% I was talking about is the building and grounds line. They've spent 73.7. And they do have a repair in there for a garage door, which you'll see on the next slide. There are, or on a later slide, there was a PD had to have their garage door replaced. It was a major repair for the PD. Well, it was about $5,000. It comes out of the Public Works budget. So it's in there. We will see by the end of the year whether we need to put more funds in Public Works to cover it. But I think at this point, we're probably pretty close to being able to cover it within the Public Works budget already. Can't say that word today for some reason.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead and tell us who rammed the police door with the.
I don't think it had anything to do with it. I think it had to do with mechanically, it kind of just broke down. And they had to.
Well, I know Chief Franks is on. Chief, are you still on?
Yeah, it broke when they tried to raise it one night. Nobody hit it, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you rammed it or something.
No, sir.
It could have been a disaster, like falling on top of a car or a person. So I guess it was a good thing that it at least stayed in place, but the motor was gone.
That's what the official report reads anyway.
We had no OSHA reportable on that one. Let's see. On planning and zoning, we spent 178,000 so far compared to 186,000. They've only used 44% of their budget. And we've got some savings. There were some vacancies there in the department when the director of the department there was gone. I guess Lynn left. There was a little bit of a vacancy there. So we saved a little money on this line. It won't be, I think we'll be pretty good on this salary line through the end of the year. And then you go down, there really isn't anything else in the department. They have some town beautification money that hasn't been spent. They've been really holding their resources there and trying to make minimal purchases in the department, but we will see how things go to the end of the year. I don't think there's any major issues there that they'll be asking for any changes. Next up is Park and Rec. They've spent $396,170 compared to $249,265. Really, that's on this capital line. What they've purchased so far, there's a filtration system for the splash pad, and the playground equipment actually was paid for. So when you're looking at some of those things there, they're doing pretty good. The one that actually goes over the 58% over here is the purchases for Stallings Fest and Christmas and upcoming events. Most of those purchases have already taken place and the major events have already passed. So the upcoming programs really won't. I don't see that going over budget. They still have some funds, 8,343 to last them through the end of the year. And sanitation, you can see we're at 55.8. I think we will be okay with our budget at $1,050,600. Debt service, we've only spent $46,980. We did make another principal payment. It was due March 1st. It was $291,800. So you'll see this number jump up quite a bit and get us closer to the actual budget number of 369. There's no problem. We're not going to go over. It'll be within budget. So total expenditures, we have 6,794,000 versus 3.522 million for last year. And this big difference here, and we've talked about this, is it's pretty much 2,800,000 or 700,000. If you took that off of there, you'd be right at about $5 million or $4 million, I'm sorry, for the year for expenditures. Any questions? Move on. Stormwater, we are pretty much now, if you remember, we didn't change stormwater at all for pricing and tax purposes. The revenue is very consistent with last year. We've collected 415,000 and last 471. Last year was 416,000. I don't think there's any major problem with that. It's just a matter of timing. I think we'll still, be able to get to our budget number by the end of the year. Total expenditures, there haven't been many. We have $136,660 versus $226,189. And that's really some of the stormwater projects. You can see the big difference here on the repair line. We were at $108,600 versus $166,380 for last year. I think we have money in the budget with the changes or this evening, the council votes that were taken. I will be coming back to council for an appropriation of funds to cover those repairs. The timing of it may not all be in this fiscal year. I will get with Bo to make sure that if it's going to hit this fiscal year, that we put it in the budget. And like I said, I'll be coming to council there's a couple of items that we have to do budget amendments for. Right now we have, let's see, about 13 stormwater projects that we identified. And they're still working those, and they'll be, they're in various, I would say percentages of completion on some of those things. Some haven't been started yet, but for the most part, these have been identified as problems, and we're doing investigation, and there are some outstanding purchase orders on some of these already. All right. Overall, you can see that general fund balance increased 1.451 million. And what that is really general fund revenues minus the expenses. And so it did actually go up by the 1.451. It went up in a restricted area. If you see here, we will have a new restricted fund at the end of the year if these funds are not used. There are restricted items on the financial statements for the ARP funds. The unassigned balance, however, has gone down. If you're looking at, where at this point we will have some unassigned fund balance that is going to decrease this year, and that was because of the appropriations that we made as well. Let's see, stormwater, we have revenues over expenses. There's $278,000 of revenues over the current expenses. So it actually, right now we have a fund balance of $1.5 million. I know the target number is to keep a reserve of about $1 million. So these items that were identified for this evening as stormwater repairs we would be able to cover those and still remain well below or well above, I should say, our goal of $1 million reserve. Okay, we'll move on. Cash and cash balances, investment balances. Cash actually increased 692,000 from the prior month. And that's mainly because of our collection of ad valorem taxes. As I said before, we collected about $600,000 more tax this year, just between the tax items over last year at this point in time. The checking accounts altogether, you can see they're split up between general fund, stormwater, and sewer fund. We're at the checking accounts have almost 7 million, 6.65 million. The government portfolio fund and the North Carolina PAL bill or NCC management fund with the PAL bill funds. Between those two, we have almost $8 million. So altogether, we have 14.588 million. In summary, I would say that, you know, this year our revenues are going to be significantly higher than budget from what we had done, what we had budgeted. We did a very conservative budget on revenue, not knowing how COVID would affect our revenues and actually people paying taxes and having the funds to pay taxes. So it was smart to try and, you know, keep this, you know, keep it at a fiscally manageable level that to make sure that we don't overspend. I see as the months go out, we will be using some of our cash because the biggest revenue line for us is our ad valorem tax. And as I pointed out, after February, we will have received about 95% of that number. So our revenue does drop off a little bit towards the end of the year each month. As far as cash is concerned, you know, cash coming into the town. Expenditures are 1.3 million below our budget. And that's really related to, you know, what if you're not considering the old Monroe property, it's really related to timing of our capital expenditures. Our salaries and those lines, they're pretty consistent throughout the year, but the timing of your capital purchases can really change when your expenditures really hit. And also, you know, the road repairs also haven't really hit much this year either. We have, you know, one expense that has hit for the fiscal year 21 repairs, but nothing else. As I just said, our cash balance is very high. We're in good shape there. And really, bottom line is, you know, if we, over these next several months, I think that spending will ramp up for those items that I just mentioned, the capital items and road repairs. But other than that, things are, you know, I mean, everything looks very financially stable. I don't see any major problems. And I am not sure whether I skipped it or I don't see it in here. It's not showing, but I do have a slide. For some reason, I can't see it. Let me go back to a regular view, because it's actually, if you see there's a little X over the 13 there, these are the items that are on the, and I'll make it larger. These are items that I would say are unbudgeted so far. There was council approved the purchase of a police vehicle from asset forfeiture funds. And that's really just an appropriation of funds that are already set aside for expending on, you know, the police department. So it's not really taking away from unassigned fund balance. And actually, they have revenue that I can actually put in from some grant revenue that I can use to help offset that. So if you remember, they have about $29,000 worth of grant revenue. So I'm going to see by the end of the year, I may wait another month for the actual budget amendment, but either way, it's not going to change the overall outcome. I think that they can probably cover it within their budget, but rather than run close, we'll go ahead and ask for a budget amendment and we'll take it out of the restricted funds. The other item on there, it has to do with the garage door replacement. And as I mentioned, it was close to 5,000. It's 4,817.
So we ruined the car and the garage door at the same time. Same incident. I got you.
No. I just I'll let Chief Franks address that one.
How is the purchase of the John Deere property accounted for? Is that an asset on our books or what?
It is. It will be an asset on the books. It's counted as an investment You will see it on the way that you'll see it on the financials on our actual, there's two sets. Well, there's not two sets. There's two views that you see when you're looking at financial statements for a town. One view is everything is counted as an expenditure, and an expenditure isn't necessarily an expense. But and I say that because capital outlay is an expenditure. But if you're looking at the true statement of an expense, you would capitalize it and it wouldn't be an expense on normal companies, like a commercial company's income statement. And if you look at there's government-wide, what they're called are government-wide statements. And then there's another set of statements within the audited financials, which reflect exactly what I'm showing you here. The government-wide statements show the assets of the town. The others are showing what you really spent your money on, and they count it as an expenditure. Here you can see that this line item, capital outlay for general government, that's how we account for that property. We also account for the cars, which are capitalized. They're accounted for in public safety as a capital outlay. So those line items are expenditures that if you want to talk more about it, I will, but it's just very different than just a regular commercial company, the way that the municipalities and towns.
When you said, or first sentence or two was that it shows up as cash or investments, and go toward the slides a couple more back, the cash and investment page.
That actually is cash that we have with an investment company.
Yeah, there.
Yes,
So
it's not in there.
This 2.7.
The town has millions. The town has millions, and I'm sorry, but I don't know that off the top of my head, like the total asset value, because we count roads in there too, if the roads that we own. So it's like $48 million.
I'd be good selling the roads based on the condition they're in.
But there's a lot invested. And as far as capital assets go, these aren't capital assets. These are cash investments. So they're different than the capital expenditure line items, which are fixed assets.
Okay. All righty. Any other further questions for Marcia? Marcia, do you have anything else for us?
All I have is the budget schedule. That's like the next item. I don't know if we want, I have this view up only because I can change it here versus.
Yeah, rather than everybody take a look at the budget schedule. I looked at it, looks fine to me. All the meetings are on Monday. And so everybody take a look at it. And if you got any concerns, let me, Alex, and Marcia know. All righty. Thank you, Marcia. Great job.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. All right, next up is the DFI contract. I don't know if we have anything. Do we have anything to look at, Aaron, or is it just discussion?
Mayor.
There it is. Yeah.
So good evening, everybody. The next item is the Development Finance Initiative contract. As a brief background, one of the town's top priorities over the past several years has been downtown creation. And over the past year, we've been talking with each other, implementing the DFI Downtown Phase 1 feasibility assessment. We put $75,000 into the budget for this past year and talked about it during the annual retreat, as well as had a special meeting for it earlier this evening. And I get the sense that the board is kind of ready to approve the contract. And so staff would recommend approving the Downtown Finance Initiative contract.
All righty. Brad, you made some great points, and I agree with you. For 75,000, we're getting a lot of expertise that we don't have. And the only thing that concerns me is what talking about tonight is going into phase 2. without any water and sewer, without sewer. And where are we going to get that to grow and development? So, Stinson Farms is not going to get any. The county commissioners tell us it's 6 to 8 years before they develop a sewer plant that'll have capacity up here. I know there's some out there, but the hospital has a commitment on some of theirs, but I don't, they're concerned about not being able to develop 100%. So that's what concerns me on the next step. And that's why I asked about the timeline. They would, after they finish phase 1, they'd like to, while the data is fresh, move into phase 2. And, I don't know how much public money we're going to have available to do that, or water and sewer. So that's my only concern. So.
Well, it's a real one. I share it too. And I think most of the council would probably nod their heads and say the same thing. So, yeah.
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 So it's the chicken and the egg to me. We need this done to get to the next step. And, but we have water and sewer for the John Deere property. I mean, that's grandfathered in, that, that service is there. I believe. I mean, the John Deere place had water and sewer, so.
Yeah.
I don't think that amount's taken away, so.
I'd also point out, Mayor, that I think we've decided to program a $50,000 grant from the state to cover the initial phase 1 for downtown.
Right.
So that's going to be helpful. So we'll be under budget this year on this expense. And you're right. We just need to follow it, and we'll have some stops, options to stop along the way before we do phase 2. So I'm okay to put the money to work, given the investment we made.
Can you go ahead and make a motion there, Brad?
Can I ask one question?
Sure, Stephen.
Just real quick. Do we have any legal recourse for the county not providing the base service requirements? I mean, it sounds to me like they've dropped the ball. And we don't have to answer it here, but it just feels like maybe they dropped the ball on one of the basic services that they're in charge of. Just something to consider.
Let's see, is Mac still on here? You do have legal recourse. You'd never win, and plus you'd spend $100,000 trying to go to court. But the county commissioners, Stoney will admit it right up front. They've dropped the ball. He's not pointing. He'll point fingers in a heartbeat, but that it's justified in this. They've dropped the ball. There's no doubt about it.
Years.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is allowing Indian Trail to build all those apartments and suck up the water and sewer. I mean, it's just, they just won't stop. So that's not the type of development that we want, but that's how the ball's rolling right now. So, but to answer your question, Stephen, I'm sure we could soon, but it wouldn't do any good. Wouldn't just waste more money.
Gotcha. Thanks. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. All righty.
I'll move to approve the phase 1 contract with the Development Finance Institute for a cost of $74,400.
All right. Motion by Mrs. Richardson. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Show. Aaron, could you do roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall.
Aye.
District 2 Shoal.
Aye.
District 3 Drake.
Aye.
District 4 Grooms.
Aye.
District 5 Ayers.
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, Alex, for your work on that. All right, next up is update on the U5 11 12 Potter Pleasant Plain intersection. So take it away there, Alex.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you. I wrestled with whether to bring this back to the board so quickly, but where I landed was, yes, it is important to kind of get direction from the council on a couple items and report back, even though we've still got some irons in the fire where the details haven't been fully fleshed out. And let's go through this, and I think it'll make sense as we do. So the big hiccup we've run into recently was the $1.6 million that the state gave us as part of a grant. We weren't allowed to use that as to help kind of close the gap for the P3 budget directly or indirectly to count it towards the purchase of the old tractor dealership property. So there were a couple issues that kind of came up at our last planning board meeting our last council meeting. One was, can ARPA funds be applied towards this? And two, can we count and kind of bundle multiple items that don't meet the state's thresholds? The ARPA funds, our initial research has been positive. We think there's a really good chance that ARPA funds could potentially be used towards this project. So unless anyone objects, we'd like to bring our partners at Centralina CRC who are helping us do this, have a conversation in March with the council on that to verify some of those uses. The second item regarding bundling, we've reached out to our elected officials office in Raleigh and provided them with a list of all the different capital expenditures we expect within this fiscal year. And they're going to go and talk to the state budget office and see if there's a possibility that we could count those towards the 1.6 million. So at the same time, DOT asked us to get an updated cost estimate. The last base estimate we were using was about a year ago, April 2021. And so our engineers kind of updated that. And then also DOT looked at it and added some additional items and made some tweaks as well. And long story short is we don't have final verification on a couple things, but it appears like the number has gone up significantly. Right now, it's looking like about 3.6 million. That does include a 25% contingency. But again, I don't think the specific dollar amount is important in the sense of what we're going to talk about tonight. Just know that the gap has grown significantly and the gap is even more significant. However, we have learned that there is a statewide contingency fund. It's gone up. It's typically about, I think, $10 to $12 million or so each year, as best I can tell. But this year there's $62 million in it. And we're still trying to verify. We're waiting on DOT to get back with us. And we've asked our elected officials in Raleigh to help us better understand the process. Are there caps on what you can request, timelines and things like that? But in the sense, what we do know is that it involves getting approval from the Speaker of the North Carolina House and or the President of the NC Senate to kind of move forward. So it's a political process in the sense that we have to give some of the chief elected officials in Raleigh to sign off on it. But again, we're still trying to get kind of the details. Thank you to the mayor and the mayor pro tem who agreed to kind of help in those conversations as needed. The second, one of the second big things I wanted to kind of get council direction on tonight was considering if we would consider putting the project in with DOT as part of the Old Mill Road project. DOT had brought this up at one of our recent conversations and suggested that they would include the P3 project as part of the overall kind of planned Old Monroe Road project if the town found a way to kind of close the estimated budget gap. NCDOT advised there were several advantages to doing that. First, there's likely going to be some chronological overlap in the timeframes of when these projects are happening, and they're going to be very, very close together. So having two separate contractors, two separate administrators could create some natural challenges. The second reason, if you make it part of a bigger projects, you have some greater economies of scale and hopefully some reduced costs as a result of that. And thirdly, NCDOT has a greater capacity to manage large roadway infrastructure projects in the town of Stallings. That's not a a slam to us. I just think DOT does that all the time, right? And we don't. So those were the stated advantages. So with that being said, the two outstanding items I'm seeking council direction on generally, while recognizing we've got details to work out, is first, would the town be interested in pursuing statewide contingency funds? And also, would the town be interested in NCDOT taking over this project and making it a part of NCDOT's larger Old Monroe Road project? So happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Alex. All right, let's take number one first. So any comments, questions for Alex?
No, sir.
Yeah, I think the first one's a no-brainer. I mean, if they got 62 million, all we need is a small portion of that. So
Concur.
unfortunately, I don't think any of us has a relationship with the House Speaker and the Senate, but Dean Arp does. So we'll see what Dean can do to help us.
And Todd does with the Mark Robinson.
All right, I think so. So number two, putting this project in with the Old Monroe project. So comments or questions?
The only question I had on this one, Alex, is
Yes, sir.
does it invalidate or fulfill the contract that we signed before? I guess what I'm asking is what, I mean, that contract effectively said that we're responsible for running that project. So if we agreed to this, would it invalidate that contract or would it release us from that contract? Can you kind of explain from a mechanism how that legally would work?
Sure. Stephen, great question. I don't think I can talk about the micro at this point because this is one of those details we need to work out.
Oh, okay.
So let me explain the macro, and I think that'll be helpful because your question is the good one, right? We don't want to be responsible for cost overruns. And in talking with DOT, what they've told me verbally was if we were able to kind of close the estimated budget cap, then they would take over the project from us and be responsible for any overruns.
All right.
Yep. So that's why if we get the contingency funds, the 1.6 allowed, and then the ARP funds, we'll be in good shape.
So Councilmember Ayers, I think to answer your question, it's a good one. It's a detail that we need to figure out and work sure and make sure from a legal mechanistic standpoint that we can protect the town from those overruns. But I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think initial indications from DOT are positive. And so if y'all gave us the permission to kind of pursue this, that would be one of the things we would work with our attorneys in DOT to kind of resolve technically.
Okay. Yeah. Because we're basically would be giving them the keys to the kingdom. They would be able to run it and let
charges for whatever they.
Exactly, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All righty. Can I get we don't need a motion. Can I get a consensus on this? Anybody have any negative?
No negative.
Well, the only potential I wanted to bring up, I'm sure Alex, it's an obvious one, is that there are some advantages. The one disadvantage of throwing it in is that we lose control. Not that we have control, but we lose some control on timing. 2024 summer letting the Monroe Road project would be great, and that seems to be within the outward bounds of acceptability given the critical need that intersection is. But what if the intersection is lumped in and then the project slides to 2026 or 2028? We are worse off. So I'm okay to pursue it and think through it, talk to NCDOT. I like the fact they are experts at this and what they should do, but what assurances can we get that if that project slides that we can continue to move forward on 3P? That's and there's an and what can be done in the interim that's not already been done to move traffic there. We're going to be asking the citizens of Indian Trail, Weddington, Stallings, Wesley Chapel, who use that to wait another long time. So I'll stay. But I don't disagree, Mayor.
All right, anybody not in favor of doing these two? All right, I assume that's a consensus, Alex, that the council supports these two initiatives, and please go forward. Do you need anything else from us on that, other than a consensus that we approve them?
No, sir. Thank you for the consideration and thoughtful feedback.
All right. Thanks for the update. All righty. All righty. It's 10:11. We can keep going, or Alex has done a great job on his balanced scorecard. And but what's the pleasure of the council? We've been at it for 3 hours.
Mayor, could I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
If you give me the next 9 minutes, I think I can get through that in time to kind of knock out these two items.
Hey, there you go. That sounds like a winner to me.
All right.
Where's my stopwatch?
So first item, annual retreat, follow-up. When it comes to that, we've talked about this at length. We had a really good annual retreat, I thought, in my opinion. Got a lot of good feedback. I thought our staff did a good job. I thought our facilitator, Mr. Walton, did a good job. And I was just overall very impressed by the quality of the conversation. So what staff have done has been try to kind of take the action items, and what we've done has been to just kind of organize and prioritize it and kind of flesh it out a little bit to try to make it make sense and have it be measurable. So I'm not going to go through each of these. I'm just going to hit the big overall categories. But for example, here with the downtown priority, this was the top scoring priority across the board. The other three priorities were of equal weight and didn't score as high. So with each one of these, here's the overall priority. Councilmember Ayers, I remember we wanted to note that there was an emphasis on economic development with this and the other one, so we did that. I identified the strategy of what our next steps are, the action items, these are the things that we want to be doing, and then the benchmarks of success. How do we kind of measure that we're making progress towards what we want to do, and not just saying what we want to do, how are we making sure we're taking steps and holding ourselves accountable. So that's the downtown one. Again, I won't go into that, but basically the big part of that is the DFI contract, making the downtown a destination point, doing the things that we were doing already, doing Parks and Recs events, moving forward with streetscape work, community support. The next one is to maximize the positive development around the hospital and the light rail. So work through an action plan of what we had talked about there, the benchmarks for success, revolved around getting that DOT landscaping plan right for the bypass area, talking to Atrium, and updating that small area plan, station area plan, development ordinance, and really just creating a timeline of what that would look like and how that would work, and also identifying and using CARPO funding to do that. So the next item, develop a more proactive communication strategy. The strategy was use existing resources to officially improve external communications, but to continue to evaluate, and if it's unsatisfactory, maybe we need to tweak, maybe we need to add some more resources to that. But the big item there was developing the blog post system with the common tags. And then finally, ensuring or encouraging the completion of the critical state intersection projects. For P3, keep moving forward, but ensure the local resource commitment is appropriate. So we want to move forward, but we want to look before we leap. And for Old Monroe Road, continue to monitor the scope and schedule since it's 100% purely DOT project. And that's it. Those are the priorities. I didn't go through all of them due to time, but any questions or concerns on any of these? If none,
Alex,
yes, sir.
on the communication, I might give you a call at some point. I had a couple of ideas around that might pass on your way.
Okay, great. Thanks, Stephen.
Yeah, I was on mute. Sorry about that. The only thing I'd recommend is I've printed it off, and I think you ought to carry it with you to the council meetings, and so review it every once in a while, and just use it as our scorecard. Are we doing what we said that we wanted to do? So
absolutely,
that's just a recommendation. All right, take it over, Alex.
No, great thoughts. Councilmember Ayers happened to talk, and great. I think we need to constantly check in on this, Mayor. So thank you for that suggestion. I would ask for just kind of a formal roll call vote for approval on this, so we can keep moving here.
Okay. Do we need a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the town priorities and action strategies?
So moved.
Sure.
Motion by Mr. Ayers, second by, who was that?
Brad.
Brett, second by Mr. Richardson. And a roll call vote, please, Aaron?
Sure. District 1 Hall,
Aye.
District 2 Shoal,
Yes.
District 3 Drake,
Aye.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
Yes.
All right, appreciate your work on this, Alex. All right.
Yes, sir. And then the last item, and thank you again for everybody. So balanced scorecard, we provide a mid-year report and then also a year-long report. I've submitted the mid-year report and submitted about a month ago. So I'm not going to get into the details. At the annual retreat, we gave kind of a big picture progress report on where we were moving towards a lot of the council priorities. But just wanted to formally submit that and offer to answer any questions if they come up, or be willing to talk to anybody offline if anything arises. So thank you.
Well, the other thing on this is, it says a report to citizens. David, we need to send it to that lady doing the Shantamara, but send it to your neighbor, any citizens, HOA groups, it's a lot of great information in here. It gets people up to date on what's going on in our town. So I appreciate your work on that, Alex.
Yes, sir.
This be something to go out on the sunshine list.
I don't think it would be appropriate. I think the sunshine list is more meant for kind of legal notices, those kind of things.
All right, thanks.
But I would, we could maybe do a social media post, and just for everybody's understanding, it is on the website as well. So.
And kind of along this lines, I just wanted to say, Alex, I really do appreciate all the work that you and the staff do. I mean, we've had, at least on our side of town, a number of items where we've had to interact, and sometimes the news is not good, and sometimes it's not things that you want to hear, and it's been handled very well. So it's easy to not give appreciation when things are not going well, but I just appreciate all the interactions that we've had. I mean, obviously, just in the last week, we've had a couple of pretty negative things on this side of town. So, and at least one positive thing. So I do appreciate all the work that you guys do, and the interaction and the responses that we get. It always very informative and quick. And again, just really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Ayers. I know that means a lot. I thank my lucky stars every day. I get to work with the people I do. I'm very fortunate. I could go on for a long time about how great our team is, but I think my time's up for right now.
Well, I'll quickly ask Chief Franks, and Brian stayed on the whole meeting too.
And Ashley.
And Ashley, yeah. So is there something y'all want to comment real quick?
I want to take a real quick minute and give a shout out to the police officers over this weekend. I know you all have seen what occurred. The team really came together and did a phenomenal job. I was out there with them all night. They just really did a phenomenal job.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Is that like one of the very first murders in Stallings?
according to Lieutenant Cranford, there hasn't been one for the last, I think he said since '07.
Yeah, it's
So
been a
it's
while.
been- It's been a long time.
And it has to happen in my neighborhood.
Mhm.
It's-
So
yeah.
All right, Ashley or Brian, y'all got anything?
I just kind of echo Alex's sentiments. I'm glad to be a part of the team that we work for here in the town of Stallings, and I love going to work every day. And I appreciate you guys and how you help us out. And I just really like being a part of this team.
All right, well, thank you, Brian. Appreciate everything you do. All righty, Ashley. She might be off. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayers, second by Mr. Shoal. All in favor, say aye.
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 All righty. Ayes have it. Carolina won in overtime.
Whoever had under just
Good night,
barely
everybody.
made it too.
Well, I had the under.